Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to QI, the BBC's answer to a question that no one has ever asked. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by the wittiest, cleverest, best-looking and best-informed audience in television. And coming along also, we have a panel. In order, they are Alan Davies, Jeremy Hardy, Rick Hall and Bill Bailey. Now, each of them has a distinctive attack call. Rich goes... Jeremy goes... Bill goes... Alan goes... And I've already been before I came. The rules are simple, the questions are very unfair, and so am I. A correct answer gets fewer marks than an interesting one, and a boring answer is penalised more than a wrong one. We'll pick it up as we go along. Appropriately enough, our first round tonight is called Animal Aggression, and it's not only quite interesting, but also quite particularly not frightening. Since 1580, when records began, the total number of attacks on humans by sharks has been logged at about 2,200 only. This is equivalent to just 5% of the number of Americans injured by toilets in the year 1996. I'd like to apologise to my mother there for using the word toilets. She would prefer if I said lavatories. This latter statistic, we know exactly, according to the official figures, it was in fact 43,687 Americans injured by lavatories.
So, the lavatories didn't actually attack them.
The statistics don't say. They may have done. What are lavatories aggressive in America?
No, they're not at all.
When lavatories attack. Channel 5.
So this is actually a false statement, once again, making America look like a violent place, when in fact these people fell on the toilets, they hit their head, maybe they drowned in them, but the toilets themselves did not attack.
They were passive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I nearly injured myself the other day.
Oh, yes.
I was standing...
not quite interesting.
No, but yeah. I was standing at the urinal and it was so high.
Oh, yeah.
I had to stand on tiptoe and I nearly pulled a muscle in the hamstring area.
Yes.
And it must have been a really, really lanky plumber who put it up.
It must have been.
You were in a giant's toilet then.
Stumbled into a giant's loo.
Might have been a fountain.
It was a font in a church.
It was outdoors. I was not weeing in a font. I resent that.
I baptise this. Oi, stop that! Disgusting.
Almost time to come to the first question, you might think, really. If you heard the sound of fuffing, what would you expect to be imminently savaged by?
I just want to say that it's 9 p.m. Fuffing is a Yiddish word for, they have fuffers in porn films. To get the actors erect. So you would expect a Hasidic Jew porn star to jump on you.
Bill, fuffing.
Fuffing?
Yeah.
Well, you're nearly there. But fuffers are small creatures that are used to fuff in porn films.
And, yeah.
Yeah. Instead of human fluffers,
Shoot up the
they have
trouser leg,
tiny
arouse
little marsupials that just titillate the genitals.
For the Animal Planet channel, like when animals mate.
The Adult Discovery Channel.
Yeah, the Adult Discovery Channel. They have to get the animals worked up.
Is the animal going... the noise of it dragging itself along the ground?
It is actually, it's onomatopoeic in as much as it is descriptive of the noise the animal makes when attacking you.
A lion with a head.
A snake.
Not a snake. Actually, the answer is it's either a tiger or a weasel. Tigers never roar before attacking, no matter what the movies may say. Unlike lions, tigers are totally solitary animals who come together only when mating. Tigers only roar to tell other tigers where they are.
To where the Frosties are. If you're having your Frosties and you hear... You're eating Tony's Frosties.
Frosties.
Frosties, indeed.
So you're saying it could be a tiger or a weasel?
A weasel's also fuff, yes.
Weasels are part of the tiger family. Many people think the weasel is akin to the stoat or the polecat, but it's actually a huge prairie cat.
They are totally different, you know.
You're saying
Absolutely unacceptable, I'm sorry.
the weasel's some kind of bonsai tiger, surely.
No. I don't think you're right there, Jeremy.
They're adopted, and one day the tigers have to break it to the weasel when he's 16. We're not your real mum and dad. Weasel. No wonder I'm so mad. Don't you fuss like that. You are only a weasel.
You couldn't get a tiger up your trousers, even if you were a northerner.
If he had really big trousers.
Yeah.
Or a tiny little tiger.
The national symbol of Croatia is the weasel.
Is that correct?
Really give me
If you promise me that's true, I might give you 5 points.
absolutely true.
Croatia has a weasel, is it? Oh,
Yes.
That's terribly sweet.
All the other ones are gone. Lion's gone. Oh, what have we got left? Weasel. We have to have weasel. Oh, well.
Excellent. I like that. Good. Now, would you consider undressing for the benefit of a hungry polar bear? Again, Rich.
It's now 9:15. Yes, you would undress for a polar bear because polar bears don't like the taste of human flesh. But they would steal your clothes to get into a restaurant.
You're oddly close to the truth there. They are easily distracted and
Why don't you just say,
offering
"Look at that!"
articles. No, you see, Alan, this is a common mistake. Only humans follow the line of a finger. Animals look at the finger. If you point at something, the dog won't go, oh, what's he looking at? He'll look at your finger. What happens is you back away slowly, offering clothes, and it stops, apparently, at each piece of clothing,
Once you've taken your
giving you, it wants to sniff your scanties, essentially,
Yeah.
and will do so.
But then you die of exposure.
That's, unfortunately, it is true. Precisely the place where you're most likely to meet a polar bear,
Yeah.
it is the least warm.
I know something quite interesting
Yes, tell.
about polar bears. They don't have white fur.
Well, you better look behind you, pal.
What's that?
I'm ready for you.
Yeah. Come on.
They have clear little follicles, but because they reflect the snow, they come across as white.
But he's on a rock then. He's white. What's happening there?
Just near him is something really white. Like there'd be a white van with all the food in for the...
That is not a polar bear behind you.
Is it not?
That's a weasel.
They are beautiful animals, aren't they? You must admit they are very, very beautiful.
Well, I'd certainly tell one he was beautiful if he came near.
The point we're making about polar bears is that these are animals that can run at 30 miles an hour, and what you certainly shouldn't do is try and run away from them,
Unless
or
you're with a
attack
friend.
them,
Yes.
or stand still as you might for some animals, like gorilla. It's quite a good idea to stand absolutely still.
That's why you should always be with a friend if you encounter a polar bear, because you can't outrun the polar bear. You don't need to. You just need to outrun your friend.
Very good. Very good. Cynical, but excellent. Now, moving on to our third question in this animal aggression category. Which of these would you choose to defend yourself against an alligator with? A, paperclip. B, crocodile clip. C, paper bag. D, handbag. E, rubber band.
I'm expert on alligators because I grew up in the swamps of New Orleans.
Oh, tell them.
When it says to defend yourself against an alligator, that's the trick part of the question. This means if the alligator is litigious and trying to sue you, let's say because you're wearing his mom on your feet. There's a lot of paperwork involved in defending yourself in court against an alligator.
Is that where the word?
You would need a paper clip
Is that
for
where
that.
the word allegation comes from?
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
However,
You might need a paper bag if the alligators will taunt you before they attack you. And like a boxer, they will often hold a press conference. And they will say, you can't fight your way out of a paper bag, buddy. and then you will have to prove that you could fight your way out of a paper bag before you could fight the alligator.
Ingenious. Ingenious and so wrong. Any thoughts on the right side?
Inflate the paper bag, bang, like that, like a gun. Whoa, and the alligator loses all confidence.
Possible. It's possible.
Starts to back away like that, and then you get the handbag and ram it over its snout like that, and then put the clips on its nipples. Really.
You almost flirted with the answer there, Bill, when you talked about putting the handbag over its jaws.
But he also said that alligators have nipples.
That's a very good point. I have to say, we do have to pull you up on your nipples there.
I've got nipples.
Alligators are not mammals.
Have you never milked an alligator?
No. No one has. And if you think you have, I'm afraid you really do have problems.
Really big crocodile clip, you could clamp its jaws shut.
Well, now you see, this is the interesting thing. I will tell you the answer, because alligators and crocodiles, despite their fearsomeness, will be rendered pretty much hopeless if you pop a rubber band around them, because the muscles that close the jaws of a crocodile or an alligator amount to several tons per square inch. But the muscles that open them are so weak that they can be rendered silly just by the presence of a small, stout, elastic band around them. So all you would have to do is pop the elastic band before it managed to open its mouth.
All you would have to do.
And it would not be able to...
Why is it that all aquatic vicious beasts can be subdued by something really simple? Like sharks as well, you just punch them stoutly on the nose, don't you?
I suppose it's because in their natural habitat, things like the ability to punch stoutly on the nose don't exist. There is no stout-punching fish that roams the oceans. And there is no rubber band bird in the Everglades. I think we have to move on from there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget that we human beings are also animals, and among the beastlier and most aggressive of all, as evidenced by this cutting from the Daily Telegraph. Police rushed to rescue a horse in Dorking, Surrey, after a passing motorist saw it tied to a post so short that the horse couldn't reach down to chew the grass. They found that the poor animal had only one ear and was missing a back leg. It was also made of wood and an advertisement for a local riding school. Now, according to Douglas Adams's book, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, there is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. Let's see what you feel about that after this round of questions on astronomy. How many moons does the Earth have? Yeah?
The Earth has one moon which is made of cheese.
Oh! So you lose 10.
But it does have one moon.
No.
It's called the moon.
One of them. That's it.
I rest my case.
I can understand, Alan, that you would feel hard done by, but the answer is that there are two moons. One is the one we know, called the Moon. The other is called Cummingtonite. It's 3 miles across and orbits the world every 770 years.
Oh, you're just making this up.
Cummingtonite, yeah.
Who comes up with this shit? So you're telling me there's a second moon?
There I am.
Blue moon, I saw you standing alone, not with a small friend.
So why is there not one romantic song with the word Cummingtonite in it? Blue Cummingtonite of Kentucky or Cummingtonite River or...
No one can see it.
Because it was discovered in 1994.
9 years to write a romantic song with the word Cummingtonite in it.
In the last 9 years, no romantic songs, as far as I know, have been written at all. Have they?
Brian Adams wrote one.
Oh, please.
Everything I do it for Cummingtonite.
Well, it's a challenge to all of you songwriters out there. If you want to write songs, rhyming the moon with June. Find a rhyme for Cuithne.
Come
our
with
second
me.
moon. Come with me.
Come with
Fly me to Cuithne. Let me sing amongst the stars.
Went
Will you
to...
miss me?
Don't go to Disneyland, go to Cuithne.
Miss me on Cuithne.
Oh, no, not white middle class people doing that. No, not doing that, no, please. Okay, no. So embarrassing. Right. We have late-breaking news, as a matter of fact. Cuithne is pronounced Cruinia, and it's actually Celtic, and its orbit was discovered in 1997. There you are. People have been busy on our behalf on the internet and elsewhere, calling up important astronomers royal. Now, our next question. Where is 90% of the universe? Jeremy.
IKEA.
Very good. Give you 5 for that.
IKEA doesn't have any windows. They don't sell windows even. But they deliberately have no windows in IKEA, so you can't see out. So you have no sense of time passing. So you don't know what time you went in, what time... So you can be in there for weeks.
Wait, is that literally true?
Yeah, and actually, if you don't have access, your body doesn't have access to the natural passing of light.
You buy spoons.
I was told, is this correct,
Cathedrals
that all their products have are named. I mean, not like chair, but they're called Neville or...
You'd like it because they're all strange foreign names, like Lublik. Minbar. And you look at
What is there about me that makes you think I would like...
You're love of the exotic.
Oh, true.
You like funny, odd words.
Yes, I do.
Can
Like
I ask-
Cuithne.
Where is 90% of the
Where's
universe?
90% of the universe?
Outside.
Outside this building.
The universe is saddle-shaped. It's on a horse. And the other 10% is attachments.
Nose bags and things.
Yeah.
Well, no,
The
there's some
universe
truth
is
in that.
saddle-shaped, isn't it?
Stephen Hawking seems to think that it is saddle-shaped.
Yes.
He seems to think that it could be, like,
That's right.
at 2 points.
Yeah, but you don't really know
You
what
all
he's
thought
saying,
Rich
do
Hall
you?
was very weird, didn't you?
No.
But in fact, he was
He is
making a very
actually so. Maybe it is like you say.
Mind you, he is weird, too.
Don't tell him I'm weird.
I'm telling them...
I'm doing my best to swing along with this program that gives no cars when you get points. Now you're telling him I'm weird.
I'm telling them you're not weird.
I'm not the one who's telling people there's a second moon.
Well, it depends what you mean, because I would think that most of the universe there isn't anything. It's just a vacuum. But there are bits of universe, like stars and collections of matter and gas.
But the gaps in between are bigger, you mean?
The gaps in the between, 90% of it, this is nothing.
The gaps in between do count as the universe, however, but you're sort of on the right lines, because the answer is that 90% of the universe, well, nobody knows where it is. Most astronomers agree that at least 90% of the universe is made of so-called dark matter.
Yes.
And this stuff is invisible, and no one knows where it is. Sir Martin Rees, the Astronomer Royal, has been quoted as saying it's embarrassing that 90% of the universe is unaccounted for.
Look, we're all basing this on what Stephen Hawking says, and the fact is he's subject to interference from minicabs.
I want to rescue this programme from accusations of sickness and move on to another question. What colour is the universe?
Magnolia.
Everything's magnolia.
It's very spacious, you see, so you want a light colour, but you want to be overpowering if it was white.
You might do a dark ceiling just to bring it in a bit.
It's deceptive, the universe, because from the outside, if you're God, it looks quite small. But when you're in there, it's really quite spacious with plenty of storage.
You're very, very, very close, I have to say. It's not quite magnolia.
Beige.
Absolutely right, 10 points. It is, in fact, beige, the universe. Brilliant. Not to the naked eye, I quite agree, but it is official. Last year, after analysing the light from 200,000 galaxies, American scientists announced that the universe was pale green. Not black with silvery bits, as it appears to us. Taking the Dulux paint range as a standard, it was somewhere between Mexican mint jade cluster, and Shangri-La silk. However, to the embarrassment of the American astrophysical community, a few weeks after announcing their discovery to the American Astronomical Society, they had to admit that they'd actually made a mistake in their calculations, and the universe was in fact more a sort of taupe or beige colour. I thought it was gay whisper with a touch of amber glow, which are my favourite. This is my pancake colour. It's called gay whisper. Did you know that? It actually is. Literally true. Gay whisper.
Is gay whispers like Chinese whispers?
Only more fun. Well, now we have another question here, and this is for a bonus of 10. Fingers on the buzzers, please. How many planets are there in the solar system?
9.
Oh, once again, 9. Not the right answer. It's another forfeit of 10, I'm afraid. I'm afraid the answer is actually 8.
I'm going to write them down. You carry on.
OK.
Mars.
Yes, Mars is one.
Pluto.
No.
Here we go again.
Pluto is a planet. Goofy. It was discovered in the 1930s. It was the most recent planet to be
It was discovered by Clive Tombaugh in 1930, exactly, yes.
Well, it's a collection of gases. It's not actually...
It's not a planet.
Not a planet.
By no criterion by which planets are judged could Pluto be said
It's really,
to be
really
a planet.
big, and it goes around the sun.
Yes, so it's not really big at all. It's tiny.
Well, that's why it took so long to find. Don't be hard on it.
No, there are many others. There are many others of the same size that are going around the sun, which are not classified as.
I watched an entire BBC series
Called The Planets.
called The Planets.
Yeah.
Banged on about there being 9.
There was a great movement afoot to discover the 9th planet. Hubble, the astronomer, had predicted there would be a 9th planet, and Clive Tombaugh in 1930 discovered Pluto and claimed that it was a planet. But almost everybody now has agreed that it isn't.
What is it then?
It's a tiny ball of ice. They're the sort of earthy solid planets, like Mars and Venus and
But they're not
Mercury.
those solid, because Uranus and is known as one of the gas
So I was
giants.
starting to say there are the 4 Earth ones and there are the 4 gas ones. That's what I'm saying.
out with it,
But
say
Pluto is neither.
Uranus.
On the other hand, if Pluto can be said to be a planet, then so can the asteroids, already technically known as minor planets. In the year 2000, 71,788 of these, with more being discovered every year. Pluto is only twice as big as the largest of these, which is Ceres, and is not only much tinier than all the other planets, but is smaller than 7 of their moons as well.
Is there a rest stop between you and the end of this statement?
We are going to close this round on astronomy with a story about William James, the American psychologist and philosopher, brother, of course, of the novelist Henry James. He'd just finished giving a lecture on the solar system when he was approached by an elderly lady. "Mr. James," she said, "we don't live on a ball rotating around the sun. We live on a crust of earth on the back of a giant turtle." James was a kindly man. "If your theory is correct, madam," he asked patiently, "what does this turtle stand on?" "The first turtle stands on the back of a second, far larger turtle, of course," she snorted derisively. "But what does this second turtle stand on?" pressed the philosopher. "It's no use, Mr. James," crowed the old lady triumphantly. "It's turtles all the way down."
See, this is why America has a space program. And Great think that we're all standing on the backs of turtles with these weird moons going around that no one's ever heard.
I'm sorry I tell you this, Rich, but William James was American, and the woman who was talking to him was American.
Yes, he was, and then his brother Jesse shot her.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the last round in time-honoured fashion. It's not QI, quite interesting, but GI, general ignorance. And fingers on the buzzers, please, for this one. What is the name of the capital city of Thailand? Yes, Alan.
Bangkok.
Oh, Alan! Now, I will tell you the answer. The answer is, in fact, Grong Tape. meaning City of Angels, same as Los Angeles. An abbreviation for the official name, which is the longest place name in the world. Only ignorant foreigners, apparently, call it Bangkok, which hasn't been used in Thailand for more than 200 years as a name for that city.
Pluto and Bangkok don't exist. I'm scared to go out.
To the nearest 1,000, how many brides walked down the aisle in Britain last year? Yes, Jeremy.
Is that a clue? Because there's 10.
No, it's not. Mr. Cheerful.
When you say turtle after turtle after turtle, what is the last turtle standing on?
That's kind of the point of the anecdote. That was what William James said, and the woman said, "It's no use, Mr. James. It's turtles all the way down." She believed it was the universe of infinite turtles. It is a sort of trick question in as much as what is the aisle of a church?
The middle bit. In the middle, the path.
No, you see, that's
Door
the
to the
odd thing.
altar.
It isn't. It is the sides. The long part is simply called the central passageway.
So nobody walks up the aisle.
No, I will take her down the central passageway.
Yeah.
Not I will take her down the aisle.
I was taking up the apse, which is the area in between, off to each side.
No, the apse is the back, behind the altar is the apse. It's a rounded, only rounded.
Well, at the
Side
time,
door,
you know,
yeah.
it seemed like the apse.
Excellent. Good. Now, what flavour is the oldest known soup? Jeremy, first on the buzzer again.
Cream of plesiosaur.
Lovely thought.
Stone.
Stone soup.
That's why we are superior to all of the animal
We're
kingdom.
the only animal that eats soup.
We're the only animal that can make soup. Because a lion will kill a gazelle, it eats it all, yum, 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 a gazelle all gone, oh dear, got to get some more gazelles. But if it was us, we would kill the gazelle and then get the bones, make some soup there, keep it going for days, weeks perhaps.
Yeah.
If lions could make soup, then our days would be numbered.
Anyway, no, the answer is actually just plain, it's hippopotamus. Hippopotamus soup, yes. There was hippopotamus soup. It's the oldest recorded soup in human history. Well, now, what man-made artefacts can be seen from the moon with the naked eye? Yes.
Someone said it in the audience.
What was it?
Great Wall of China.
Oh, you've done it again! I can't believe it.
Which moon are we talking about?
Rich Hall, I think I love you. That's a damn good. You've got to have 10 for that. The fact is, nothing man-made could be seen on Earth from the moon.
Too far away.
It's much, much too far away. Even the continents are quite difficult to make out, as a matter of fact. I think, gentlemen of our esteemed panel, that it is time for our final scores. And here they are. In first equal position, it's Jeremy and Rich with 20 each. In third place, therefore, it is Bill with 5 points, but sadly, trailing a little this week with minus 30 points, it's Alan. Well, thank you very much. It only remains for me to thank Bill, Alan, Rich and Jeremy for sharing their pain with us tonight, and for me to say something quite interesting to finish with, and it's the tragic, telling but mercifully brief excerpt from a court report in The Guardian, which goes, "The marriage suffered a setback in 1985 when the husband was killed by the wife." Good night. Hello, and welcome to QI, the show which gives thoughts wings, flies in the face of convention, and goes coo in the chimney of knowledge. Roosting alongside me this evening are Rich Hall, Phil Kay, Joe Brown, and Alan Davies. Now, before we sort the owls from the orioles, let me introduce the QI Spot the Nostril competition. Your task tonight is to draw a picture of a kiwi. Right? A bird so odd that some think it's a missing link between mammals and birds. Paying particular attention to the position of its nostrils, I will reward the best effort with a nest egg. You're staring at me with a kind of glassy look. You do know what a kiwi is?
Yeah, I see one in New Zealand. They're nocturnal. So you have to go in a little Kiwi zoo thing. And they have them in virtually every town. And there'll be someone's living room, and you'll go in, and there'll be a dark room and a little glass thing.
Oh.
And national bird.
It is the national bird.
Never see it, can't fly. Rubbish.
But your task, whether you choose to accept it or not, Jim, is to draw one.
Alan.
Alan, sorry. Where did that come from?
What's the national bird of England?
So I'll tell you what it is for women. Thrush.
Do you know what it is for men? Cock.
Sorted.
Cock and thrush.
Yes. Good
There
name
is
for
a
a pub,
relation.
wouldn't
Good
it?
name for a pub.
There are pubs called the Cock Inn, aren't there? It's one of the odd jokes in Carry On, which is usually just saucy, where Charles Hawtrey is playing a detective, and he's following Sid James in Carry On Loving, I think it is. And he's sort of saying, you know, went for lunch, went to pub, the Cock Inn, had drinks with 2 other women, left Cock Inn.
I mean, that implies you've got a left cock and a right cock. Left cock in, your right cock.
So, cock, thrush, kiwi.
I've got to draw all 3 of them.
No, forget the cock and the thrush. Just draw me a kiwi, pay particular attention to the nostrils and where they are on the bird.
Imagine if your nostrils were just above your anus.
Good. Before we go any further, we want to know how you sound. So, Joe, sing to me. Rich. Phil. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's extraordinary.
Hang on.
I promise you, Phil did not know that. That's what it sounded.
Let's just check that again and make sure we weren't all having a hallucination. That's like rise and shine, good morning.
It is extraordinary. And Alan goes...
Fruity, fruity, fruity.
There you are. Didn't guess that one, did you?
No, I didn't.
A little voice in my ear just told me that the national bird of England is the European robin, apparently. So, let's head south for the winter. So, Alan, what's the difference between an ostrich and a lion?
Why the stars? What's going on with the stars? Is that a clue?
Well, it's a kind of clue to this rather
An ostrich
weird story.
is
Yeah.
a flightless bird with a very long neck, runs about 40 miles an hour, lays big eggs,
Correct.
and is edible, quite a delicacy, farmed.
Yes?
A lion, king of the jungle, big cat, kill you with a single blow. There are many differences. Is there any particular difference you're thinking of, Sal?
One of the most famous African explorers was the Scotsman
David Livingstone.
David Livingstone, thank you, Phil. And he wrote that I can distinguish between them with certainty, this is by sound, only by knowing that the ostrich roars by day and the lion roars by night. He described the idea that lions have an impressive roar as mere majestic twaddle and said that they sounded identical to ostriches. So, let's demonstrate that, right? This is the sound of a lion. Yeah. And this is the sound of an ostrich. Yes, Phil.
David Livingstone was a hard-working Scot. He was working in the mines. His ears were damaged. He couldn't be blamed for this.
Don't you feel that actually Stanley was rather lucky that when he said Dr. Livingstone, I presume he wasn't shot because he was mistaken for a leopard or something?
If Siegfried and Roy had worked with ostriches instead of big cats, they'd probably still be working today.
That's a very good thought.
Although, Johnny Cash was attacked by an ostrich. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yes.
In
Very
Africa?
ferociously, yeah.
Really?
Never quite recovered.
Yeah.
They can kick you. I saw one kick someone
Yes.
in the Goonies on the telly the other day.
Yes, I saw that as well. Yes, I
He
did.
really caught him treating me.
So we get points just for being interesting.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know that in some countries, linoleum is a form of currency.
Now that's interesting. Is it true, however?
You said it was interesting, huh?
So, in fact, we have a question for you now, young Rich. Explain how to French kiss a woodpecker.
You would have to seduce it. You have to get it interested in you.
Right.
Put a toothpick in your mouth. Say nice things to it. Oh, that's nice plumage. And you give it a date rape drug.
Should all else fail.
Yes.
Does French kissing mean kissing people with tongues? Or
Yes. Sorry.
are you seeing anyone at the moment?
Sorry. Yes, with
I
tongues.
thought that was very attractive. Why would anyone want to...
They are very extraordinary things, woodpecker tongues. Let's have a look at a woodpecker tongue. You'll be astonished. There you go. Oh! It's one of the strangest things in nature. It's an amazing organ. It can extend to 2/3 of its body length. It's covered in sticky saliva, vicious barbs, and has an ear at the end of it, which you can listen to its prey. So it uses the beak for pecking at bark and making a
ear
hole.
at the end of its tongue.
Well, a thing that detects sound.
Sorry, can you say that again?
How does it fit into its mouth, you may wonder? Well, it has to wrap it round its brain and the back of its eye sockets. Funnily enough, woodpeckers are very popular on creationist websites because they argue this is such an extraordinary creature designed, you know, so fit for its purpose and so on, that only a designer could have made it. It couldn't have evolved. Apart from anything else, when it moves, sometimes up to 15 or 16 times a second, it beats the wood and to make a hole, which is incredibly fast and generates immense forces, 250 times more forces than an astronaut is subjected to. It's 1,000 Gs. And it has these extraordinary kind of little muscles and in cartilages around its brain to sort of stop it from shattering.
I think this drawing looks like, you know, when you go to IKEA and they give you instructions for putting something together. That's what that looks like.
Insert tongue A into groove B. If the pecker's got wood, why go for tongue, you may argue. But it is a pretty astonishing animal.
Could we maybe have an offshoot of this programme called Quite Unnecessary? Can I be on that?
Absolutely. I just can't quite see how different it would be. Anyway, so, Phil, time for you. Does your bird like chocolate?
My bird?
Yeah. Does she like chocolates?
My bird likes chocolate, yes. It's very popular with...
Have you got a bird, then?
I don't know. Say you had a parrot, they'd like chocolate.
Would
Yes.
they?
Because, yeah, their hook beak's great for getting right into the toffee. You know. If you had a pelican, they don't like chocolate, they like toffee better. You know. And if you have an owl, they quite like chocolate behind them, because then they can rotate. You know, they show off. If you give a crow a Malteser, it's like, no way. You know. So my bird, no, you can't give animals chocolate because it's got something in it that makes them depressed.
Do you know, that's right.
You can't give chocolate to a dog because it's not right. And the dog, that's why you buy special chocolate for the dogs, which if you want to save money, you can still give the kids, tell them it's dusty and old, you know, like, February chocolate, Christmas chocolate's gone white and dusty.
Oh, I've eaten dog chocolate.
Pet have you?
Yeah, yes, I have.
It's like a phrase, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've eaten dog chocolate.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's part of folklore now.
Eat
So no,
dog
my
chocolate.
bird don't like chocolate.
It's a website.
No,
many
but
points
a bird
did he
doesn't
get?
like chocolate. You're quite right.
How many points does he get for that?
Well, he's correct. He'll get some points, perhaps, from our scorers if they're in the mood. How good is their sense of taste, birds, do you imagine?
Absolutely minimal. They've no need. It's a seed, I don't care, get it in.
Yeah. They only have about 20 or 30 taste buds on their tongue. They could never distinguish chocolate from
I thought it was less
anything
than
else.
that, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
I thought it was 15 to 18.
And humans have how many, would you say?
25,000.
It's about 9 or 10,000, something like that.
Pretty close.
But they grow. New ones grow every 5 days. They last
5
about
days.
5 days. No taste buds. Of course, wouldn't they be able to tell what chocolate is? But it would be toxic. It would kill them.
Kill them?
Yeah, it's actually poisonous to us, but the lethal dose is quite high.
If you have a whole tin of Quality Street, would that kill you?
About 22 pounds is the lethal dose for a human.
That's nothing.
No.
Well, yeah, a little smarty would kill a small songbird, for example.
That's quite...
You sick!
A friend of mine had a hamster and it wasn't very well, so her dad gave it a bit of brandy.
Lord, what happened?
Guess what happened next? Severe alcohol poisoning.
Terminal alcohol poisoning?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, dear.
Is he better? Go to bed. We'll see you in the morning. Get down to the shops. Get down to the shops.
When I was a teenager, someone I know gave their dog LSD. They went to Glastonbury.
I went into a friend's house, and on the top of the landing of their house, they had this sort of football and in a merry mood, and there was an open window, and I kicked it through the window. Very pleased, converted it. And I had never heard of these things that people who have hamsters have. These little balls where the hamsters kicked the hamster right out the window, and it had bounced on it and gone all over the place. I felt
Did it
absolutely
die?
awful. No, it survived. It seemed perfectly cheerful. Hello, shock. Have you seen these little balls you can... Yeah.
God, that new ball I got for Christmas is bloody brilliant. It's a pity Bill Bailey's not here, actually. They had a dog. Bill's girlfriend used to take it to work in an old people's home, and it used to eat entire boxes of Daz. And it would eat pants as well, and sort of like clean them.
There was a washing machine inside.
I know.
It threw out some white
pants would come out of its bum.
You'd have to go...
Yeah.
Really white.
Well, ish.
Yeah.
You know.
But you wouldn't pop them straight on.
That's probably true.
We had a cat that could open the fridge. So lie on its back like that with its paws under the fridge and then yank it open.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And then he was in. And he got the turkey out the fridge and had it halfway to the cat flap before we found him.
That's like Tom and Jerry, isn't it?
And then he was eating it really fast while we were running towards him. He went to grab him and he just jumped straight out the cat flap, hissing.
So, now, what weighs £6, covers 18 square feet, and has to be changed once a month?
Someone's got to do it. One of my sanitary towels. Sorry.
Oh, Bram! Did you think everyone else was about to leap in and say that?
Yeah.
I thought Alan might.
Oh,
Is that one of your sanitary towels up there? Do you have like wallpaper?
Yes, I have
the
embroidered
William Morris
ones.
rings.
I get them specially made by a lady in waiting of the Queen.
Outdoors or indoors? A flag?
It's something belonging to each and every one of us.
Skin?
Very good. Skin is the answer. The largest organ in the body.
Maybe in your body. I've got a huge cock.
I think we'll forfeit you for that. That's how predictable that was. You almost fell exactly into our trap. That counts as putting 1 foot into it, I reckon, so -5 to you. Yes, the skin. Extraordinary chap, the skin. There's a single square inch of skin. There are 20 feet of blood vessels. Just a single square inch of skin. Isn't that amazing? 1,300 nerve cells. Yep, and 100 sweat glands. And the cells of the human body are constantly being replaced. We lose about 50,000 cells a
second.
Yes. People get through around 900 skins in a lifetime. So, now,
True fact.
here's a question. Does putting perfumed sachets in your drawers help conception?
It will help conception, yes.
How so?
Because it will give a meadow-like feel to the bedroom and everyone will be relaxed and ooh.
It will certainly in that sense, and there's an even more direct sense, which is rather astonishing. Because
Lavender? Is it to do with lavender?
it's not actually lavender, it's a very particular flower, the lily of the valley.
It helps your sperm count.
And it's even weirder than that. Sperm can smell.
Sperm can smell whether you've got clean underwear on or not. And if you have, it will come out to play.
Well, they can certainly smell the smell of lily of the valley.
Okay. Someone's sitting in a lab somewhere with sperm going, now, here's something.
Do you know what? There'll be people alive because of that research in a few years' time.
You have great faith in science.
The thing is, right, is that the only people that smell of lily of the valley are like old ladies, aren't
Yes, it's a Yardley fragrance, isn't it?
It is Yardley.
Yeah.
So if you're an old lady, whoa-hey! I'm quite looking forward to it now.
Yeah.
You'll have sperm chasing you down the bookies and...
See, it has long been a mystery as to how sperm can all go in the same direction so fast at the same thing, and whether or not the ovum puts out a scent trail. The closest we've got to discovering, I say we, or German scientists at Ruhr University, have got to replicating it is this particular scent called Borgiona, which is one that's used in the Lily Valley
They tried
perfumes.
other smells.
They've tried thousands of others, and this one makes them absolutely align and race towards them. And they're going to be using it in fertility clinics. Now, here's the thing. You have to work out what I'm talking about here. Two brothers, all right? Two brothers, they have a variety stage act. One brother punches a member of the audience on stage, and the other brother is arrested. Why would that be?
Two brothers are doing a variety act.
They're Siamese twins.
You're absolutely right. Give them full maximum points. Chang and Eng Bunker was the name they eventually gave themselves. And they are why conjoined twins are called Siamese twins, because they came from Siam and got on the boat to America, where they made some money as a sort of entertainment act. I mean, they lived till the age of 63. They each married a pair of sisters and had 21 children between them. Yeah, I know, it's hard to imagine, isn't it? It does instantly, the mind tries to conjure a scene of how it
How many
worked.
cocks did they have?
All right, no, they were just joined at the tummy, they had one each.
One each?
Yes, they did. They were not joined at the cock, which would have been most unfortunate. They got on incredibly well. Though they did actually, on that boat journey from Siam, they had a fight about it. One of them wanted a cold bath and the other didn't, and the crew and the captain had to sort of... Separate. Had to placate them. Throw a bucket of cold water at them, I suppose.
The one on the left looks really serious.
He was a straight man.
Well, actually, one of them took to drink and the other didn't. But their systems are pretty independent. So
Imagine that, your twin pissed that one. Come on, I'm getting your eyes. I love you.
Chang, perhaps not unnaturally as a drinker, died first. And Eng woke up one morning to discover his brother had died and gave a great howl of despair. And they ran to fetch a doctor to try and separate him from his dead twin. And they came back and he'd coiled himself round his twin and died within an hour of this. And the post-mortem revealed that it was really just, in its day, it was called kind of a broken heart, but it was a sort of nervous shock. He had no reason to die. And it was...
A lot of comedy teams have broken up and they've done very well solos.
Thank you for that tender remark.
I'm feeling much better about deformity now we've talked it through.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a genuine dignity there. There we are. What happened was, of course, that Cheng, who was the brother who landed the punch, the one who, of course, later became an alcoholic, was guilty of common assault. But the judge decided it would amount to false imprisonment to jail the other one, so he set them both free. So, some advantage there in being conjoined twins.
Licensed to whack people.
So, on to our own version of this barbaric ritual that we call QI, and that's the general ignorance round. Fingers on buzzers for this, please. What is the loudest thing in the ocean?
The blue whale.
Blue whale? Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, no. The song of the blue whale is nothing like as loud as this.
You can hear it for 10,000 miles.
Another whale can hear it, but it's not actually in amplitude the loudest thing, in fact. Yes.
Must it not be the sea itself?
No.
Crabs.
At least not. I mean, it's
Not
a
quite
crabs, even smaller.
Lobsters.
Tiny baby.
Some sort of vibrating thing.
Well, no, you're doing exactly what Alan is doing is exactly right.
I am doing is
animal.
exactly right.
Yeah. Imagine a trillion things with little
Sweaty
claws
diver
doing this.
Crayfish.
Lobsters.
Lobsters.
Smaller.
Shrimps.
Shrimps. Yeah.
They're the loudest thing in the ocean.
Yeah.
Oh, it's quiet down there,
That's
isn't
right. It's called the shrimp layer, and there are trillions of them, and they do this at the same time. And it's not actually the claws banging together that makes the noise, it's the bubble of air popping that is created by this very fast thing. It comes out at 30 feet per second, this thing, and it then pops. And it can keep people awake. If they come inland quite near the coast, it can keep whole communities awake at night. Trillions of them, though. I mean, really vast. They can white out a submarine's sonar and deafen the operators through their headphones. Subs below the layer can hear absolutely nothing above it, and subs above it can hear nothing below it.
And they're floating in the water.
Yes, you can only hear by raising a mast through them. So, now, next question. What's more likely, being killed by lightning or by an asteroid?
Fruity, fruity, fruity.
Yes.
Lightning.
Oh, dear.
No one's ever been killed by an asteroid. That's rubbish. Prove it.
Now, oddly enough, I mean, I think it's sort of rather unfair, but because you answered it, in the UK, you're more likely to be struck by an asteroid, but in America, it's more likely to be struck by lightning. This is research into NEOs, near-Earth objects, as they're called, estimates that a large one strikes us once every million years. The resulting death toll is likely to be in excess of 1 billion. So the chances of you dying
Oh, please, that's never happened.
are 1 in 6 million in any year.
That has never happened.
No, but it's going to happen pretty soon.
No, it won't.
Well, more than 2 kilometres wide is all the asteroid needs to be. And we've seen certainly craters which show that there have been ones much wider than that. And it's due at any moment. But
Where would you like it to land? I'd like it to land
wherever it lands,
in
it's like hundreds and hundreds of atom bombs. It's going to destroy everybody.
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
They wouldn't mind. They'd just be delighted it didn't land in Lancashire. It come to Yorkshire.
Most people are struck by lightning on golf courses, right?
I believe that's true, yes.
My aunt got struck by lightning on the
You have an
golf
aunt?
course.
Oh, your aunt. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Yeah. I do apologise. Pet aunt, you might do.
That too. She had a pet aunt. My aunt. She got struck between the first and second holes.
Oh, very good.
Something in her stance.
Now, where do camels come from? That's my next question. Phil.
Over there.
Usually out of the shimmering, miragey, horizon.
Yeah, true. And over there, you may be pointing in the right direction, actually. I can't quite tell whether to give you the points or not. Where do they originate from?
Oh, Africa.
Africa.
Yeah.
Europe.
Europe, did you say?
Yes.
Into world
Not Europe,
adventure.
no. But that wasn't a forfeit one for some reason.
Asia.
Asia, did you say? Oh, what? There you are. You're desperate for those points, aren't you? Yeah.
Isn't it Australia?
No, it's not Australia even.
America.
Yay! Well done. You got some points back.
Really?
No.
Yep, they did. They did. They certainly
cigarettes,
did.
maybe.
Like horses and dogs. No, the fact is, like horses and dogs, camels grew up in the grasslands of America 20 million years ago.
Rubbish.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh, but the land masses will have been adjoined.
Well, Bering Strait was land then, exactly. In those days, they were more like giraffes or gazelles, in fact.
You know, the camel is the only other mammal, apart from humans, that smokes. Will actually smoke the cigarette and enjoy it.
Oh.
They
What
give
about
them,
beagles?
the camel handlers give them a puff and they... Not beagles hate it. And they inhale and exhale smoke. I totally made that up, that's rubbish. But it was quite a good one and it got you going.
It did go. Well, they became extinct in North America during the last ice age, and unlike horses and dogs, haven't made it back there, except in zoos. So, next question. Why are flamingos pink?
It's what they eat.
Which is?
Shrimps.
You really didn't know that, did you? You really were shocked by
What are
that
the chances of that? No, they do. They eat something that
They
affects
do.
their
It is food, but
pigmentation.
it's so not shrimps. It's actually, oddly enough, blue-green algae.
They stand on one leg because if they stood on... Because
If
they
they
have to change
lifted
legs.
the other one, they'd fall down.
They'd fall... And their legs would rot. So they have to change them, otherwise their leg would rot.
Oh, is that right?
No, I made that up as well, but I'm doing it quite well. I've made twice, I made you go, is that right?
Despite the name blue-green algae, as well as containing green chlorophyll, it's rich in blue and red pigments. So its blooms are often red. Violet, brown, yellow, even orange. So from one silly bill to another. Artists, we need to see your kiwis and judge accordingly. So, go and start at this end.
Yeah, what I have here is a sequential drawing of the nostril itself, there in situ, and here shedding, sneezing. So, as a flip of early movie footage, it's...
I've drawn the assembly instructions for a kiwi. Like you find at IKEA. And this is where you screw on the beak and C. And the Phillips head screw. And that's the completed project.
Right, OK, very good. Joe?
I just sort of did colouring in.
Oh, that's so beautiful, though. And you've got the nostrils at the end of this crest.
I have.
We did discover, didn't we, in an earlier round that birds have no taste.
It's
It's very charming. Excellent. So, Alan, let's have a look at yours. Oh, yes.
there, I've
yes.
done him. Now, that's him with his shades on,
Yeah.
even though it's night.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't matter.
No.
And his nostrils are on the end of his beak for sniffing.
Well, that's extraordinary. Whether through some random act or whether through brilliance, you've got it absolutely spot on. That is rather nice. Now, the very end of the beak. How about that? Officially, you measure a bird's bill from the tip to the nostril.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, that's I don't quite. Well, the measurement. So officially, the kiwi has the shortest bill of all birds. Anyway, it frequently gets clogged up, its little nostrils, but they're very good sneezers. Yeah. So let's count our chickens. And the final scores are, in first place, with a proud 3 points, it's Rich. And in second place with 1 point, it's Phil. In third place, with -8, it's Joe. For the proud and flourishing last with -40, it's Alan. Let me leave you with one very extraordinary bird tale. Tibbles, the lighthouse keeper's cat, arrived on tiny Stevens Island in New Zealand at the beginning of the last century, and soon piles of small bird corpses began piling up by the back door. And the puzzled lighthouse keeper sent off some samples and was delighted to learn that Tibbles had discovered a new species, the only flightless perching bird in the world ever recorded. But it was unfortunately too late. By the time the news arrived, Tibbles had tracked down and killed every last example of what is now known as the Stevens Island wren. It's the only case of a single individual wiping out every member of a whole species. On that note, from Joe, Rich, Phil, Alan, myself, good night. Good evening, and welcome to QI for a very special operatic edition featuring the vocal talents of Arthur Smith, Andy Hamilton, June McKeegan, and Alan Davies. Better known as 3 tenors and a fiver. Now, in front of each of you is an ordinary wine glass. At the end of the programme, there's a 50-point bonus for anyone who can break it using the power of the voice alone. In the meantime, let's hear your buzzer noises. Doon goes... And Arthur goes... And he goes... That's really good. And Alan goes... Now, gentlemen, which one of you would like to smother Doon McKeegan in goose fat?
What, again? Well, I know.
You've swam miles in the sea, haven't you?
Yeah, you swam the channel.
From Shakespeare Beach in Dover to Cap Grenay in France.
This woman has swum the channel, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big deal, isn't it? And were you smothered in goose fat?
Yeah, it wasn't actually goose fat, it was just normal
Vaseline.
in a tub. Jam? No, it wasn't jam. No, that's in your head.
Yes. And we'd like it to stay there. In 1998, is that right?
That is right. Captain Webb was the first man to swim across the channel in 18-something, you probably know.
1875, August the 24th. Well, I've always known that because that's my birthday. Yeah.
Well, he had goose fat, but in the channel in those days, it wasn't full of condoms and regurgitated beer and turds, which is what I was swimming through. It was all phosphorescence and dolphins and...
He took 21 hours, I think. How long did you take?
Well, we swam in it with some paratroopers, so it wasn't a solo...
Oh, this was a sexual adventure, it wasn't it? You know what happened to Captain Webb?
Yes, I do. He drowned attempting to swim across the bottom of Niagara Falls.
Congratulations, I give you points for that. Absolutely right. Well done. Yep.
When he was addicted to fame, he became addicted to having to do more and more daring swimming feats.
And there's a statue of him, isn't there, somewhere?
Presumably on the south coast, I didn't know.
Under the water.
It's Idiot's Bend at Niagara.
Have you ever read that book about the history of swimming called The Haunt of the Black Masseurs? It's a very interesting book, because kind of no one swam, really, before the Romantics.
No, Byron famously swam the Hellespont.
Exactly. Said it was the best thing he ever did.
Yes, he did it with a man called Lieutenant Eaconhead.
Oh, all right, you win.
No. That's not how this works. We share.
Yes, I'm sorry.
We share information.
Well, why is it every fact I give, you've got a slightly more impressive one?
No. So, Alan, let's turn to you anyway. Alan, who or what is coming tonight?
I don't know. You know, it's young Steve.
Let me just say that coming tonight is one word.
Ah.
Maybe it's a website.
No. Oh dear, I'm sorry if we looked it up.
Is it a small village?
Is it coming tonight as in like kryptonite? Like some sort of a metallic thing?
It's a mineral. Well done. I'll give you a couple of points for that. Coming tonight. It is coming tonight. There's a small town in Massachusetts called Cummington, and they discovered a rock there, which is known as Cummingtonite. Other comedy compounds have been named after the diagrams of their molecular structure. So what do you suppose this one is called? Oh, well, you don't have to...
It's the only question I will get right.
Yeah.
It's penguinoni.
Well done! Brilliant!
That's why penguinoni pasta is that shape as well. If you don't.
And that's why our art and special effects department are
Fired.
reaching for their cards. Exactly. They're going to try another one, though, and this time they're going to see if they can hide the answer. So, what about this one? Ooh. It looks like the front of an ant, doesn't it?
Now you're thinking head on. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's quite frightening, actually.
Well, let's test our art department and see if they can now put up the answer for you. There you are. It is a cyclical compound of arsenic. It's called arsol. There's a thing called moronic acid. Do you know about that? To whom would you give moronic acid?
Is it scientific name for Nuki Brown? Is that what it is?
It's from the herb Rus javanica, and it's given to people with herpes. Now, Doon, a cuisine question for you. Have you ever had a deep-fried Mars bar?
I have had a deep-fried curly-whirly.
Have you really?
Yes.
Did you batter it?
It was battered. In my local chip shop in Fife, you could have the chocolate bar of your choice.
Wow.
You could hold it in the paper. And it's, yeah.
And did the butter cover it completely, or were there still little holes?
No, sadly not.
The pierced
Sadly not
effect.
a lattice work of beauty. Yeah. No, just a lump of greasy, fat heart attack.
Will you stop doing that?
But you can get deep-fried salad.
Oh, no.
It's crispy seaweed, otherwise known as.
Good point. That is deep.
But yes, no, in Scotland, you seem to be able to get anything deep-fried.
But there is some evidence that they've been taking on board the government's advice about health and the Mediterranean diet. You can get deep-fried pizza as well, can't you?
Yep.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Have you ever had it? Well, you've been here many times.
I haven't. You know, I've heard tell of this strange beast.
Yeah.
And many comedians would do jokes about deep-fried Mars bars, but I never had the courage to have them. They're always odd to me, Scottish chip shops generally, you know.
Calliope.
Well, you know, they say, can I have a fish supper? And like, well, supper means and chips. kind of thought I'd go in and, you know, ask for a supper. You know. Like 2 lots of chips.
But you could also buy individual cigarettes there, so to add insult to injury, you could also, to add to your heart attack, then buy a single number 6 and quickly have it.
Yeah.
Fry the
Deep fried.
Deep fried Benson and Hedges is really good.
Everything in there was deep fried.
Yeah.
You came out, you were deep fried yourself. And that is Scottish cuisine.
But is that not a myth, a deep fried Mars?
Well, no, it isn't a myth, and that's really why we asked, because some people think it is a myth. It absolutely isn't a myth at all. It really does exist. There's one.
All right, can we talk about herpes again, please?
But these are the kind of things you were swimming into when you were going across. Pretty horrific.
Deep fried turd.
Yeah, there was a Mark Pettigrew of the MRC's Social and Public Health Sciences Unit who surveyed 300 shops. 22% of them sold deep-fried Mars bars. Yeah. But he also came across deep-fried cream eggs, ice cream bananas and Rolos. And to that we add...
Curly whirly.
Curly whirly. What do they look like again?
I'm not...
Really good. In Glasgow, perhaps the least healthy food ever sold is the deep-fried pork sausage kebab. You take a pork sausage, you wrap it in doner kebab meat, coat it in batter and deep fry it. It's 1,000 of your best calories in 46 grams of fat.
You know, but if you called it, you know, saucisson en croûte avec un coulis superbe, you charge 25 quid for it.
But instead in Glasgow they call it a stoner. Do you know what a stoner? Do you know what it means? Yeah, it means an erection. It means a stuffy, aye. That's the Scottish accent about it.
Which part of Scotland was that?
Well, you know, the part I loved, you know, there's a marvellous story about Maggie Smith when she was going to play Miss Jean Brodie, and she was going, oh, God, I can't do a bloody Scottish accent. And a friend of hers said, well, I've got an aunt who lives in Morningside, which is just the right area for Jean Brodie, that very refined Scottish accent. So call her up and, you know, offer to take her out to tea. And so Maggie Smith called up and said, hello, my name's Maggie Smith. I don't know if you know the novel, The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Said, but I'm playing that character, and I'd love... Apparently you have a very, very charming Morningside accent, and I'd like to take you to tea, and maybe with a tape recorder. And there was a very frigid pause. He said, my dear, I have been told I have no accent whatever. Completely insulting. And there are Scots... I remember talking to one Scot who spoke a form of Scottish where he was convinced that everyone thought he sounded English. There is absolutely nothing I am saying which ought to lead you to believe that I am Scottish. Absolutely every vowel is pure English, and yet it sounded more Scottish than the worst Glaswegian drunk in a Soho doorway. Carry on.
And you were doing so well.
Yes.
I know you. They are that voice I know what goes left.
Really, I've got to say, Stephen, it's been a bewildering array of Scottish...
Anyway, we move from Scotland to something quite unconnected, and that's the world of crime. Now... Please, let me... Oh, no. Anyway, now, although it has been illegal for many, many years, some tribal authorities in Nigeria still cling to ordeal by bean. I want to know what that is.
Well, I've certainly had that. When when you're stuck on an aeroplane...
Yeah.
And you're forced to watch 7 episodes of Mr. Bean.
Oh!
I'm going to fall back on my usual theory, which is it's going to be inserted about your person in some way.
Oh, it's a nice thought, isn't it, to have a bean popped in, but it's not that.
Is it to find out if ladies are witches? Do they force feed them beans, and then if they fart, they are witches, and then they die anyway? And that's...
You're absolutely along the right lines. It's that kind of an ordeal. It's a bean that is so poisonous that one of its seeds is a lethal dose. And it's a Nigerian tribal custom which is outlawed but still apparently carries on.
If you deep fried it, would it be all right then? You deep fry it into submission?
Well, the key apparently is to eat it very, very quickly.
Do you have deep fried baked beans? Do they do that?
Ooh.
What do you do them individually?
Have you spotted? Gap in the
Put them in a polystyrene cup and then put batter around that.
Just in the Just in the tin.
Just in the tin,
Yeah.
they do the whole tin.
I heard that 95% of the baked beans in the world are eaten in Britain. No one else eats baked beans, apart from the Finns or something. 20 Finns like a can.
Why can't other bean manufacturers make their beans taste like Heinz beans? All the other ones you get, if they haven't got Heinz in, they don't taste. What's going on there? Can't they just get the sauce and do a bit of analysis, make the same thing?
Are you just after a big shipment of Heinz baked beans? Is that what? That's pretty brazen. What you just as advertisements go, there are no beans like Heinz, says Alan Davies. There's no champagne like Krug. That's what I went. I don't know about you.
There's a Calabar bean, or a series of them. Yeah.
So you eat one of them and you'll die.
Yes, though, if you're innocent, apparently the idea is if you eat them very, 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 very quickly, really gulp them down, it hits a bit which makes you vomit them up very fast, whereas if you eat them slowly, they get right into your bloodstream if you chew them. So in theory, innocent people eat more quickly than guilty people. The Calabar bean has helped us with anti-tetanus and with... it's an antidote to strychnine. If someone's dying of strychnine poison...
You give them a lethal bean. And they won't die of strychnine.
Exactly. Die of Calabar.
Yeah, but they might be a witch, so it's good that they die.
That's true.
I knew a witch, she was very nice.
Maybe never put a spell on you, though, eh?
Or maybe she actually gave me a terrible time, put a spell on me to say what I'm saying now.
Yes.
And she was very nice. She's like... I'm not nice at all.
Well, now, fourthly, as it were, Arthur, why did Big Beard Wang regularly shave his pussy?
Well, I'm afraid I'm disappointed that we've got a cheap laugh from the word pussy.
I'm laughing at Wang, actually.
I think it's a person, perhaps.
You're right.
Big Beard Wang, who one could assume he had a large beard.
And he shaved his cat.
Well, he was a barber. He was a barber to a very famous man.
Was he a Chinese barber?
He was a Chinese
An emperor, was there?
A kind of emperor, I suppose, though he would certainly not call himself one. But
Chairman Mao.
Chairman Mao, indeed. And Mao is the Chinese for...
Cat.
Cat! Exactly. Meow, you would think, but no, it really is. Mao is cat.
Is that cat on the end of Chairman Mao's...
That's why I'm smiling.
I don't remember that as one of those communist posters.
It means cat, Mao, and it also means hat, oddly enough. So, Mao Zha Li Di Mao means the cat in the hat. The next question is purely a matter of choice for you now. How old would you like to be, Arthur?
I should like to be 62, I think.
62.
I'd like to be 6 because it's marvellous to be 6 because you're not aware of your own mortality. You think you're the centre of the universe, days last 100 years. It's always summer. You can put your head in some custard and no one cares.
You're arguing a very persuasive case for being
You do get
sick.
a lot of custard when you're sick.
You do get a lot of custard.
I haven't had nearly as much custard since I was a child. No. I think I probably had about 90% of my life's custard I think I had in the first 10 years.
Alan Davies, the custard years.
And the fish finger years as well. Yeah. And the baked bean years. No, I'm about to be 26.
26?
Yeah, but that's just because of Denise Batchelor. Denise Batchelor's somebody I knew when I was 26. She was marvellous.
Did Batchelor make beans? That would be even more
but they're not
confusing.
as good as Heinz. Why aren't they?
Why doesn't someone else go into making beans? It's like Heinz. It was Heinz. You know, why don't,
Gordon Ramsay, he could do beans.
Gordon Ramsay beans.
Yeah, f***ing beans, he said.
It's a brilliant idea for a whole new range of Gordon foods, isn't it?
And the instructions that say, put it in a f***ing saucepan, you idiot. Show a bit of f***ing passion.
I'm going to have to drag you back to our question because I like 6. Andy, what age would you like to be?
I'd like to be 90.
90?
Yeah. I'd like people to think I was 90, because then you can get away with murder.
Of course, coming with 90, it is essential to say you're 90 all the time.
Yeah, I'm 90.
I'm 90, you know.
I'm 90.
Yeah.
My gran used to add a year. She'd say I'm 75 next year. You're 74 then, aren't you?
35 was a good year. I went out with this marvellous woman called Denise Batchelor.
June, what about you? What's your ideal? What age would you like to be?
I quite like to be a minute old. After the smack. And everything's washed off.
Baby.
You're straight on the tit. You've got entertainment, you've got sleep, and you can cry all the time without anyone thinking you're weird. You lie on a sheepskin and everyone just goes, you are just beautiful.
And they do that thing onto you, don't they?
Yeah, on your tummy.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that to people again when you're 90.
Yeah.
Spend your time on the tit. You know what Do you know what, according to market researchers Data Monitor, who interviewed lots and lots of people, children and adults alike, what the perfect age turned out to be?
25.
24, I was going to say.
31.
6.
Surprisingly, the answer is 17.
Oh, that was terrible age. 17's terrible age.
Yeah, oh, it was for me. Like, I had like awful hair, spots,
Acne.
glasses.
Yeah, you were terrible, I
Yeah,
remember you.
I was in prison. Faint aroma about it.
As it happens. But,
And rightly so.
and rightly so, absolutely. Here's a very interesting to try and work out. From a man's point of view, the perfect age for a woman is said to be half his own age plus 7. Right? So if you're 40, a 27-year-old. So
Denise Batchelor was
if you're
33.
20.
Take it from me, that is the perfect age.
Yeah. Well, if you're 20, that means that the girl would be 17, yes? Half your age plus 7. If you're 13, it'd be 13. Well,
So?
pleasingly, half your age. Well, 13 and a half, wouldn't it? Yes, sir.
Well, I just haven't heard it. And,
Try them all together. What do they all sound like together?
1, 2, 3.
Maybe not. Let us move on to a round of general ignorance. Fingers on the buzzers. Show me roughly how big is a platypus?
About that long.
Whoa! Well, we're being very technical here. There's only one thing that's actually technically called the platypus, and that is actually a beetle. That's the real platypus. It was a sort of nickname given to the duck-billed platypus that we still use. What do you know about the duck-billed kind?
Only found in Australia, lives in the water, got a flat bill on the front like that. I've seen them in a zoo.
There you are, yeah. They're
They
gorgeous.
swim about, they're quite frisky, they're very cute actually.
Well, the first time a stuffed one appeared in Europe, people thought it was just a hoax done by an Asian taxidermist. They absolutely refused to believe that it was a real animal. There was a beaver's tail and a...
do you know they used to have a thing in Horniman's Museum? And they used to have a seal, and it had underneath brackets, badly stuffed.
Sweet. But they lay eggs, of course. They're
Are
a
they
mammal,
poisonous?
but they lay eggs.
Are they poisonous? If
Now,
you eat
that's fair.
them?
I'm going to give you 5 points for that, because it's the only mammal on Earth that has venom, that is a poison spur. You're quite right. But which other mammal lays eggs? There's only one other kind. Do you know what kind?
Crocodile?
No, mammal.
Okay.
A very, very strange dog.
No, it's a spiny anteater and an echidna.
Is a chicken not a mammal then?
No, it's a bird.
Do you know what?
Mammals as in memories. Mammals
yeah.
are animals that suckle their young. The point about it is it suckles, it gives off milk. But unlike most mammals, it doesn't have nipples, a platypus. It sweats milk. I mean, in a sense, these nipples are kind of like overgrown sebaceous, little sweat glands. That's what happened. Little milk was... And then it just became specialised.
Can you stop doing that?
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah, they're extraordinary creatures, aren't they? Have you ever seen one in the wild?
Never have. I'd love to.
Have you ever been on a safari, Stephen?
Yeah, I've been to see gorilla, and to wake up in the jungle is one of the most joyous experiences you can ever have. I don't know what it is about it. The night is horrific. The noise is unspeakable. I mean, the things that are said, you're just falling off to sleep and someone goes, you know, have a nut! Like that. And it's an animal of some kind. And then another one says, my grandmother's dead! Like this. You know, like that. And then, woo, woo! Like this. And then, all happening this close to you. And it just going like this. And you turn...
That was a great party.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fell asleep on the sofa, that's good.
You turn a light on and of course, just the things fly at you, like this hideous, leathery things fly at you, and it's just unspeakably noisy and horrific, and you're quivering and you're sweating, but when you wake up in it, it's amazing. Everything, so all the noises are little liquid warbles of... Exactly. Anyway, good, well done on platypuses. How many people, next question, fingers on buzzers, how many people can take part in a dialogue? Go on. Two. Oh! Is that a duologue? That's a duologue, absolutely. I mean, of course, two people could be in dialogue, but could be one person, could be 100. Dia is Greek for across or through, not to. What are the contents of the Queen's handbag?
I don't think I've ever seen the Queen get anything out of her handbag. She's certainly never done that thing that women do, you know, where they go, it's in here somewhere, I know. So my suspicion is that she probably has nothing in her handbag. I think it's probably a kind of social defence. And it means she doesn't have to hold Prince Philip's hand. Look.
The Little Book of Calm. And mace spray. Because there's a lot of people around her who get too close.
Eat
there's
it,
many
hoodie.
big hats. It's like, you know, back off!
Apparently the Queen does carry money, but a lot of people think she doesn't, but apparently she, for Sundays, she always has money, an unspecified denomination, folded in her handbag there. And also she has a comb, apparently, a handkerchief, a small gold compact, and a tube of lipstick. Maybe she gets upset if she carries a fiver, thinking, God, I used to be so pretty.
She's got a deep-fried curly-whirly in there. She's got to have some pleasure.
Oh, yes.
She sits in the loo
What
and
do
she
they look
just
like?
eats
Oh,
it
yes, like that.
quietly in the toilet. She crams it all in when no one's looking. I'm all right.
At the final bell, we wish you to make a glass break. I think first, in case you manage to do it, you're going to have to put on safety equipment. Oh, no, they have got...
Oh, they suit you, Dean. They make you look sort of more academic.
Thank you.
I think you look more like a welder.
No.
Yes, Alan, I'm afraid, did cheat because it's almost impossible to do. This is actually sugar glass. No! Oh, this is real! What do you do?
Lucky to be alive.
I'll be hearing from your solicitor.
If it has caused even a second's misery to the health and safety people, I'm very pleased. So there we are. The scores, ladies and gentlemen. In last place, but just, with -6, is Arthur Smith, ladies and gentlemen. In third place with -4, Alan Davies. In second place with -2, June McKeegan. And in first place with 5 whole points is Andy Hamilton, ladies and gentlemen. that is about it from Andy, Arthur, Doone, Alan and me. I leave you with the wise words of the great Woody Allen. Of all the wonders of nature, a tree in summer is perhaps the most remarkable, with the possible exception of a moose singing Embraceable You in spats. Good evening, and welcome to another voyage to the dark continent aboard HMS Pig Ignorant. And joining me on the poop deck this evening, we have Admiral Sir Clive Anderson. And Mr. Midshipman Arthur Smith. Stoker Reeves. And Alan the ship's cat. They buzz with anticipation, and this week they buzz with nautical noises. Clive goes...
General quarters, all hands man your battle station.
Arthur goes... Vic goes...
I want Arthur's. And I wanted to be a coxswain.
Yes. Don't call me son. And Alan goes... No, but bless. Tonight our D theme is discoveries, and to that end, in front of each one of you here, you should find you have a picture, which is a picture of a genuine United States Patent Office patent application. Arthur, have a look at yours, shall we? And Clive, yours looks like this. And Vic. And Alan, you've got a picture too. And you've got the next half hour to think about it. At the end of the show, I'll ask you exactly what you think they are for. And so to our first question, which is something I've always wanted to know, which is why does it always rain at the weekend?
General quarters, all hands man your battle station.
Clive?
Is it because cricket matches are played at the weekend?
And God doesn't like cricket?
Well, it's just sort of an element of sod's law, isn't it? That you're trying to do something outdoors, fates, you know, garden fates happen.
Clive, sod's law doesn't really exist.
As a practising sod and lawyer, if it doesn't exist, I'm sure this government is going to introduce it fairly soon.
I think more people go out at the weekend and they create a warm front with heat. Especially if they haven't got hats on. There's a lot of body heat is lost.
But the thing is, though, a week is a man-made construct.
You're right. And which men first made it?
Well, they had it in the Bible, didn't they?
That's right. It's a pre-biblical civilization. First gave us a 7-day week.
Yes.
But the Romans had an 8-day week.
It's Egyptians or Babylonians.
Babylonians is the right answer. It was the Babylonians.
The point being that if it's a man-made construct, what have we done that makes it rain at the weekend?
I'm going to give you points because you're absolutely on the right track. It's industry, combustion, all kinds of things like that builds up during the working week, and on Saturdays, particularly in America, it rains considerably more than it does on other days.
I remember it raining one Saturday.
That's a lovely story.
Did you like that? I knew you'd like it,
That is
Steve.
gorgeous. Anyway, that's the answer. More rain falls on a Saturday than on any other day. Recent discoveries show this is due to a 7-day dust cycle caused by traffic and industrial activity during the working week. Now, next question. What connects gelignite, saccharin, and the rings around Uranus?
This is what I call a fantastic night out.
If this is about discoveries, the only thing I know about gelignite is it was invented by Nobel of the Nobel Prize.
Exactly, it was, yes.
And this is a safety version of dynamite.
Gelignite is safer than nitroglycerin,
Yes.
which is what's inside dynamite. Nitroglycerin escapes from the dynamite and it blows people up, including Nobel's brothers.
If you get that on your hands, you can get a headache, and they call it having banged head. I learnt that on Brainiac.
You're absolutely right.
I have reason to believe that it was invented by mistake.
Hooray! Top marks, absolutely right. They're all serendipitous, accidental inventions.
When were the rings around Uranus discovered? Quite recently, I think.
The rings of Uranus were discovered in 1977, actually.
When did it stop being called Uranus?
About 5 minutes ago, I said Uranus. I suddenly noticed that it could sound like your anus.
I can't remember who discovered it, but the guy who discovered it wanted to call it George Planet
He did.
after the king. But
Herschel, his name.
Herschel, there.
1781. Yeah.
You can't ask for anusol in that way in a shop. You have to pronounce it anusol.
It's a slightly embarrassing product. Let's call it anusol.
Can I have some cockwort go? It might as well be. Ridiculous.
And whilst I'm at it, I'll have a packet of those spunk bags.
Well, anyway, Alfred Nobel was trying to make dynamite more stable, and he discovered by adding collodion. He'd had some on his finger. It was used, I don't know if you ever used it as an actor, if you ever had to have a scar. It tightens on the skin very hard. They used to use it as a sort of liquid plaster. He'd cut himself and he thought, this is very odd stuff. And he just thought he'd try mixing it with lots of other things, and he accidentally mixed it with his nitroglycerin, and it formed a jelly, which you could throw around, unlike nitroglycerin, which, as you know, is very, very unstable. Saccharin, he forgot to wash his hands after playing with some chemicals, and then found his food tasted sweet, so he was an American, obviously, because he ate with his fingers.
There's a huge number of things that are discovered by accident.
Trousers.
Trousers were discovered.
When somebody accidentally fell into 2 drain pipes. Hey, presto! No more embarrassing walks.
That's like the story of Roquefort, when a young shepherd boy, just picture the scene, he's dropped his cheese in a hole.
I often picture the scene of young shepherd boys dropping their cheese in a hole.
And 6 months later, he's sheltering in the cave, and he found this bit of cheese, he's starving, and it's all rotten. And he thought, oh, well, what the hell, I'll eat it anyway. It's delicious. Yeah. And that's how blue cheese was discovered, children.
The 3M company were after a paper glue that would stick cards and paper together really strongly, and one of their research chemists was so bad at it that he just... but it sort of stuck, but you just peeled it off, and so came up with the Post-it note, which was an accident as well. Caffeine, silly putty, Viagra, and another accident, of course, the Americas.
Yes.
They're not all successful. So, yes, the most famous serendipitous discovery perhaps was penicillin, a great cure for diseases. And while we're on the subject of diseases, who suffered from Shagger's disease?
Oh, I did, you know what I mean? Oh, bloody Shagger.
We didn't see that one coming.
Is it something to do with shag pile carpets and the dust that comes from the shag pile, that it's drawn in through the nasal passage into the lungs, perhaps called woolly lung?
I love that idea, but it's not that.
How are you spelling this Shagger's disease?
No, that's a good question.
Yeah,
how you spell it? It's actually spelled C-H-A-G-A-S, Shaggas.
I think it's some sort of virus or a bacterium or a
parasitic
disease.
It's a parasitic disease.
It's some sort of equatorial disease. I'm sure I've had an injection against this or
If anyone
something.
needed an injection against Shagger's disease.
What now? You're doing history!
It's infectious.
There's a famous person who had it.
And what's our letter of the series?
D.
D. It's a famous
Darwin.
Darwin. Charles Darwin had Shagger's disease, and he described it. It's pretty unpleasant, I have to say.
Did he get it off the beagle?
He did.
Oh, look how it took him.
The description of Shagger's disease is unpleasant. Vomiting, preceded by shivering, hysterical crying, dying sensations, half faint, copious and very pallid urine.
This is premenstrual tension.
What about this one? This is an odd one. And now vomiting and every passage of flatulence preceded by ringing of ears. Mine is followed by ringing of ears.
He had this for 50 years.
For 50 years he had that. Very sad. Amusing name, but by no means an amusing condition. Shagger's disease, a serious problem still for millions of people all over, particularly South America. It was discovered by Carlos Chagas. It's unique in the history of medicine, inasmuch as it is the only disease that was entirely described by one single researcher. Charles Darwin, one of the great discoverers of all time, of course, described many things with one notable exception. What was Darwin's problem with brown owl? And why did he not describe it?
Now, clearly, if one makes a joke about Girl Guides here, like he was traumatised during a period in the Girl Guides.
Before.
Help me now.
We even predicted your mistake, because I think brown owl brownies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have died before.
Before
they
the
had-
brownies
yeah.
existed, exactly.
Yeah.
He probably ate it or something.
Ah!
So he ate brown owls, you're saying?
Well, actually, he didn't, because he described it as indescribable, which is why he didn't describe the brown owl. Well, actually, as food, he meant, because Charles Darwin, one of the greatest scientists, one of the greatest men, really, of any age, was considered a very dim pupil and couldn't spell and was terrible at arithmetic and went to Cambridge. The only subject his father thought was fit for him was divinity. And he spent his time chasing rats and shooting and looking at animals and eating strange animals. He was a member of the Gourmet Society, or the Gluttons, as it was known at Cambridge, and their aim in life was to eat as many rare and peculiar animals, like bitterns and hawks. But brown owl, they didn't like at all, and all the others became bishops and archdeacons.
Is this still exists, this club?
Exists? Stephen's the president of it.
Yeah, otherwise you're writing me around for Fox on Crib.
I drink Panda. That's the... Oh, it's lovely.
I've got a book at home. It's equivalent to the Collins Book of Birds from 1850. And after describing each bird, at the end it will say, for instance, a buzzard tastes a little bit milder than a golden eagle. Yes. But still quite palatable.
Does it have a wine recommendation at the bottom? You suggest a Chablis or a New World Merlot.
Do you know what you should drink with the beating heart of a cobra? This is a dish in China where you get a cobra and it's brought to the table alive. They then slice it open, rip the heart out, and it's beating on the plate there. You have to chase it around the plate, I suppose. And then you drink the blood of the snake as the wine.
Actually, I ordered the lasagna.
What's the most disgusting thing you've ever eaten, Alan?
Earwax.
Your own? It was your own, that's right.
It's really horrible.
Bitter.
I mean, if just a tiny bit on the end of your fingers.
Sweet and sour.
Imagine if you had to have a sandwich of it. Like, really like a block of it.
Anyway, a phylum feast is held on the 12th of February every year by zoologists and biologists, in which they try and eat as many different species as possible, in honour of Charles Darwin, whose birthday that was. Now, what's quite interesting about this sentence: serrated nor'wester sea breezes caress rambling sea lion kumquat excursion.
They're all in different colours.
One individual introduced all these words into the English language.
John Masefield.
No, it was earlier than that.
Nicholas Parsons.
Cook. James Cook.
Not James Cook. Funnily enough, he was the first Englishman to set foot in Australia. He was a hero to many, many people and spoke many languages. He was the first man ever to work out the importance of wind over currents and publish wind maps. Cook used him. Nelson
We all
used
feel we're thick as hell.
No,
That's the name of the bloke.
I have to confess, it was a vague name to me. I knew nothing about him before. William Dampier, his name was.
I was going to say Dampier. I've got two first edition of Dampier's Voyages. And there he is. 1701. But I didn't think he went there.
You did?
Have you read these books then?
Yeah. And there's no mention of Australia.
For about 100 years, almost every voyager carried a copy of his voyages around with them. A New Voyage Around the World was his huge bestseller.
So why isn't he famous? Like
He
James
should
Cook?
be,
Yeah.
because there's a subsequent question which you might now get. How did he influence two of the most famous books in English?
Robinson Crusoe?
Robinson Crusoe
Well,
is
no,
one.
that wasn't him. That was Alexander.
It was Alexander Selkirk. But one other book.
Peter Rabbit.
Gulliver's Travels.
Yes. Gulliver's Travels is a sort of fantasy version of his...
That's right. It's a kind of parody stroke fantasy version, and he mentions Dampier in the preface, and he bases the Yahoos on Dampier's descriptions of the Aboriginals of Australia.
But was he stranded on an island?
No, the voyage on which Alexander Selkirk was the first mate was organised by Dampier, and he was on board as well. And there was a captain who had a furious rows with the young 27-year-old Alexander Selkirk, a Scot. And he tried to go around the Horn of South America. And at the fourth time, they arrived on this Masa Tierra, this little island 400 miles off the west coast of Chile. And Alexander Selkirk said, "You can get me off here. I don't want to sail any more with you as captain." And he took his, mattress and some books and some equipment and then on the beach, and then the ship prepared to go. And he thought, "I've changed my mind." And Stredling, the captain, said, "Tough." And
So
went off.
it wasn't a wreck, it was just a...
Left him for 4.5 years on his own there. And then another ship came, the Duke.
And it had Sue Lawley on board.
But the pilot of the other ship that came up was William Dampier, who picked him up and rescued him. And on the way back, they took charge of a Spanish ship, laden Spanish ship, all due to Selkirk's superior seamanship. And he went on to the ship that they captured and sailed it back, made a fortune from the prize money. But what happened to him? He couldn't readjust to society after being Robinson Crusoe, as it were. And he went to live in a cave in Scotland for 15 years. And then Defoe wrote the book Robinson Crusoe, and he became a huge celebrity. People came to visit him in his cave, and he got very annoyed. So he joined the Navy, and off the coast of Africa drank infected water and died.
Dampier wasn't well liked either because he was a privateer. And also, another person on one of his ships was John Silver, who was a peg-leg. And he was just an ordinary seaman, but he was there. Israel Hands was real. He was shot in the leg by Blackbeard.
Oh, really?
Blackbeard put his gun under the table and shot Israel Hands in the leg and said, "Now, don't forget who's boss."
Edward Teach, was it not his name?
Teach, yes.
I know that there's a bloke in Moby Dick called Starbuck who liked coffee.
There it is.
And his best friend was Costa.
I think I know that because you told me.
Yeah, well, it's good to know. There's an extraordinary academic book called Sodomy and the Pirate Tradition. Do you know that book?
Yeah.
I've got that book.
Tom Baker came up to me and said, "Jim, I think you might find this interesting."
Fine book, and I recommend it. The name of the show is quite interesting. I think Vic here has been more than quite interesting.
Yes.
He's going to give you 20 points for his
Too
fantastic
interesting.
stuff on piracy. Well, brilliant. Now, what two discoveries do we owe to this gentleman?
Shorts and socks.
I would say this is the first ever full mince.
He looks a bit like Harry Houdini.
He is...
Is he a circus performer? Is he
a circus performer is so precisely what he is.
And that's his outfit.
His outfit is his name.
Ted Tights.
He is Ted Tights, but Jules Leotard.
Ah,
His name is Leotard.
by other means.
He is the man about whom the song "The Daring Young Man on the Flying Trapeze" was written.
You said two inventions, though.
He invented the somersault through the air onto another.
He also invented hummus, which was discovered when he peeled off the leotard. And when left to rot, it turns into terrible salata.
It is most unpleasant. He, of course, didn't call it a leotard. He was only called that after his death. He called it a maillot. M-A-I-L-L-O-T.
So if I had an unusual item of clothing that had never been seen before, we could call it a Smith.
Good.
You're wearing it now.
So we say thank you to Jules Leotard for the flying trapeze and the leotard. And lastly, we must come now to a relatively recent discovery. Name something quite interesting that kangaroos can't do.
They can't drive.
That's kind of true.
Can't drive.
I'm going to reduce it then to a bodily...
They can't smell, they can't climb trees.
It's a bodily function, I'm afraid.
Can't fart.
They cannot fart is the right answer.
It's too polite.
Well done.
You do wonder how they found this out.
Well, you and absolutely.
We've been here for 200 years and not one of those damn kangaroos has farted. I can't believe it.
The odd thing is that they eat exactly the same sort of diet as cows, who fart an enormous amount. In fact, cows fart so much that they're a threat to the planet, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, let's blame the cow.
Well, it's our fault for domesticating them and having huge prairies of them, isn't it?
But why can't they fart? If they've got really big arseholes, is it?
Very tight ones.
They've...
I know that would create a high-pitched fart. Let me tell you, I'm the prince.
Track wind is terrible.
Yeah, well, that's the point, is that it's one of 40 different bacteria that are in the kangaroo's gut that aren't in a cow's gut, and they want to isolate it and maybe try giving it to a cow and see if that'll stop cows farting.
Well, these cows are swelled to this enormous size.
Because it'd be fantastic to be in charge of a good, brutal fart when you jump like that, wouldn't
It could give you an extra foot in the air, isn't it? It's cheap but true, and potentially of world-shattering importance, because if we can get cows to stop farting, we may well save the planet. Who knows? Now, we will move on as our flimsy bark of ignorance brings us to the great terra incognita that we call general ignorance. So fingers on buzzers, if you will, please, and let's see what swamps and quicksands lay awaiting. What did Queen Victoria have to say about her musical bottom?
It was Le Petomane.
Ah, no, it wasn't that kind of bottom. It was the kind of bottom that you wear.
Bustle.
Bustles.
Yes.
A musical bustle was made for her golden jubilee.
And the tune that it played when she sat down was, Arthur...
We are not amused.
No,
No, you didn't say that!
You forced them into that. What I meant, Arthur, was press yours.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it was God Save the Queen. The idea was that, of course, if you'd sit down and it would play God Save, and everyone would stand, you'd have to stand up. Apparently she was amused, I'm sorry to say.
The mark of a true queen, Stephen, apparently, is that you never have to look around when you sit down. And she didn't look behind her to see if there was a chair, because a chair would always be put underneath her, so you could spot it was a fake queen.
Somebody at some point, some teacher of the royals has said, whenever you go out anywhere, just look around at anything. It doesn't really matter what you're looking at, but they're just constantly looking about. Like there's a fly loose.
Well, anyway, there you are. That was the musical bottom. What goes to wit to woo?
Oh, I'm going to say brown owl just to get rid of the points, you know.
Well,
Yeah, you see, I just...
If only you'd said brown owls. 2 brown owls go to wit to woo, but one never can.
Oh, one goes to twit and one goes to woo.
Exactly. We might even be able to whip up the sound of it for you. That's the twit, and that was the who.
In legal documents and statutes, you always construe the singular to include the plural.
I'll halve the penalty if you can tell me, is it the male who goes who or the female?
I'd have thought the female would have the last word, so the male would get it.
Oh, it's the other way around.
Other way around.
The female goes twit, and the male goes who. Exactly. Anyway, why did Fernville Lord Digby work in the nude?
Is that him there?
No, I don't know who that is. I can't.
I wouldn't know either. Don't turn round.
Because it was a dog.
Because he was a dog.
It was a Dulux dog.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, brilliant.
That was the second one.
Well done.
I always wonder why they have a dog on the Andrek, you know, the toilet paper adverts. So there's a sort of implication that really you'd rather be wiping your ass with a dog.
Thank you very much.
But actually, what was a French... what was that French decadent writer? Rabelais. Rabelais says...
Always wiped his ass with a dog.
No, he did. No, with a swan's neck.
Down the pan.
That's what he said. The best... He did a survey. Wipe your ass. Best thing to wipe your ass.
And then put it back on the Seine.
That's really,
off you go.
that's really flossing, really, isn't it? But how astonishingly successful for all its oddity, as you say. I mean, the fact is, people now all over Britain, if they can't remember that that's called an Old English sheepdog, will say, oh, they've got one of those lovely Dulux dogs. I mean, they're actually called that now, aren't they?
But it did more for the sales of Old English sheepdogs than it did for the paint.
Yes.
And there's again the implication that you could paint using the dog.
Who knows?
I had occasion to hire a theatrical duck once.
A lovey duck.
In my career, I've had occasion to hire many an animal. But the most expensive was a pelican.
Was it an enormous bill?
You weren't going to say that, were you? No, I wasn't.
But do give yourself 10 points for that.
Anyway, now, it's time to guess your patent, if you'd be so kind. Alan, what have you got for us?
Well, it's some sort of electrified Christmas stocking. It's a shoe bomb. Why would you want an electrified Christmas stocking anyway?
It's a Santa Claus detector.
Oh, cool.
It's got a motion detection. You hang it amongst your other stockings, and when Santa Claus comes, it triggers a light and an alarm.
There's no such thing as
I
Santa.
know there isn't.
Waste of time.
Waste of time. Clive.
This looks like a bra where you've got a little nozzle and you can blow down it to inflate the bra. So this is clearly designed for a woman who maybe thinks
A
one of her...
woman with no arms.
Oh, yes, I wasn't going to mention that. She's got one breast she feels is slightly smaller than the other, but she doesn't make a big thing of it, except when she's walking past somebody who she fancies, so she can quickly and surreptitiously inflate the breast.
It's odd enough your breath was going in the wrong direction. You were blowing when you should be sucking.
So you suck...
You basically have drink in your bra. And you can surreptitiously suck your drink out of it.
It's only going to be for red wine, though, isn't it? Because it's going to be too warm for white wine or beer or...
Oh, what about Ovaltine? Oh! Can I have one of those Ovaltine bras? I've heard so much about. She came in here reeking of Ovaltine.
What's yours, young Arthur?
Yes. I remember Clive Anderson in his 30s. And I can't hardly believe it, but maybe someone has actually patented the comb over.
You're absolutely right. On May the 10th, 1977, Frank Smith from Orlando, Florida, filed a patent for a method of styling hair to cover partial baldness using only the hair on a person's head.
But why is his head the colour of a baboon's arse?
Have you got the full details of this that I could take away and study for general interest?
If you look at this picture, though, what you'll see is a horse with its tail. And that's just the end of it.
Yes.
Vic, what have you got for us?
This is a device for sucking those special gases out of a U-bend. And it looks like an actual pan that's filled with some sort of worms, which probably create the gas in the U-bend.
Well, you're more or less right. It is a device for allowing you to breathe in the event of a fire in a hotel room. You pop it. It's called the toilet snorkel.
So your last moments before the fire burns your backside off, you spent sucking in basically lavatory air.
Lavatory air.
Darling, I just want to find, where's the toilet snorkel?
And on that marvellous note, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to have a look at the points, and they are more than a little interesting. Because, in first place, a newcomer to the game, and my God, did he play a blinder, Mr. Vic Reeves. 16 crisp young points he earned, but look at this. I cannot believe it, ladies and gentlemen. In second place with 0, it's Alan Davies! Oh, how you've climbed the giddy heights to 0. You've dreamt of scoring 0, haven't you? You've dreamt of it.
I come in with 0, if only I can leave with it.
In third place with -7, Clive Anderson. But I'm afraid the one who fell most into our Heffalump traps was Arthur Smith on -23. From Clive, Vic, Arthur, Alan and me, that's all from QI this week. One last word on discoveries from the plenipotentiary of gobbledygook himself, Ken Dodd. The man who invented cat's eyes got the idea when he saw a cat facing him in the road. If the cat had been facing the other way, he'd have invented the pencil sharpener. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the QI Grill. Tonight's guests are hungry to begin, so let's go straight through and start eating. For starters, it's Jimmy Carr. And the consummate professional Johnny Vegas. A substantial main course, Phil Jupitus. And, of course, a sweet little pudding, Alan Davies. But before we tuck in a small amuse-bouche or amuse-bouze with the compliments of the house, Jimmy goes.
Food, glorious food. We're anxious to try it.
And Johnny goes.
Spank, 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 Spanks, 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 spanks.
And then I trampled 9 women to get to the bar.
Thank you. And Alan goes.
Rabbit, 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 mummy, jabba rabbit.
Oh, but what's that smell?
Sorry.
It's not you. It's an elephant.
Mummy, jabba rabbit.
It's an elephant in the room.
Well, there will be one coming up on the menu sometime tonight, and of course, it's bonuses if you catch my eye. Now, let's move on. What happens in the rhubarb triangle?
I don't think I'm even allowed to call it the rhubarb triangle anymore.
Don't you?
No, apparently that wasn't custard, that was some sort of yeast infection.
You bad man.
The rhubarb triangle. Milady.
The leaves are poisonous.
Good point, that is true.
We were always told as children, don't eat the leaves.
Well, is that
They
just
look vile.
don't eat the leaves of rhubarb?
Rhubarb, yeah.
Oh, well, that's where I've been going wrong.
You thought he meant all leaves.
Badness.
Yes. Well, no, rhubarb leaves make your mouth numb, you get kidney stones, and enough of them you can die. But the rhubarb triangle, we're no closer.
Do marzipan fighter planes go missing?
It's a nice
Do they not pick anything up on the licorice radar and then they suddenly start talking nonsense and gingerbread men, good men,
brave,
fought in the pudding wars, just vanished, and the wives are stood there holding their eyes going, this is all they found.
I want to live in your world, Johnny Vegas. It's a wonderful, wonderful idea. But it is a triangle.
It's an
Rhubarb
actual
triangle.
place. That's
Is
the
it-
Bermuda Triangle.
It is an actual place.
There are ventures to suggest they grow rhubarb there.
They do, and they grow it in a very special way.
Is rhubarb one of those things that grows incredibly quick?
It can be made to grow in a more remarkable way than nature intended, if you like. And that's what happens in the rhubarb triangle.
We'll be up north.
We are up north.
We're up north growing rhubarb quickly.
Yes. Where would we be?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, it's Yorkshire. It's a triangle made from the 3 cities, Leeds, Bradford and Wakefield. So it's quite a small triangle.
Leeds to Bradford, it's like
I know,
from
it's a small-
here to Jimmy.
It's a small, scalene triangle. And how do they grow it?
Forced marriages amongst rhubarb.
Forced is the word. They force the rhubarb.
At gunpoint.
They force. It's the great rhubarb forcing capital of the world.
What do you mean they force it? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about you leave it outside for 2 years so it gets energy.
Teach
from
us
the
a
sun.
holding lesson.
2
Poor thing's
years
heartbroken.
from its birth. Then you bring it into the dark.
And you make love.
The absolute dark.
You make love to it.
Heated, dark rooms. It grows at extraordinary rates because none of its energy and none of its nutrients go to making leaves to capture sunlight anymore because it's dark. So they go into shooting out. You can actually hear them grow. If you go into one of these forcing rooms, there's this creaking sound of rhubarb growing. And they provide 90% of all winter rhubarb.
90% of it?
In that one little triangle. Now, we never grew rhubarb that way in the 1839, 1842 time. Do you remember what war we were engaged in round about then?
Oh, the Opium War.
It was the Opium War. We tried to flood China with opium, and they fought back, not wanting to be filled with our opium from our empire. But we imported all our rhubarb from China, and rhubarb was very useful as a slight laxative. And the Imperial Chinese Commissioner Lin Zexu wrote a letter to Queen Victoria personally, warning that unless the British stopped supplying opium to China, he would cut off rhubarb supplies to Britain, killing everyone through mass constipation. Apparently the Queen never had the letter translated, so she risked the entire nation being bunged up. Now, cornflakes were invented by accident, but what were they originally used for?
Food, glorious food.
It was... Originally, they were the world's most difficult jigsaw. The original.
It was for putting in mattresses for monks as an anti-masturbation sound trigger device.
Johnny Vegas, take some points.
You're joking?
It's unbelievable. Well, you didn't get it precisely right, but the point is they were originally designed to discourage masturbation. They were... It's absolutely... It is not actually by the noise you would make if they were a filling for a mattress, which was your idea, which is a reasonable idea. But it was John Harvey Kellogg, as you probably know, and his brother, who had the Battle Creek Sanatorium, and Kellogg and his brother, there's John Harvey, I think, was obsessed with their hatred of masturbation.
They made gloves out of them.
That would be a lacerating experience, I grant you. But no, it's...
Whereas Cocoa Pops...
Every exam I sat at school,
yes,
I put masturbation as an answer. Walked away with nothing, but stuck with that idea that it's paid off.
You're right. Well, what happened was they'd been rolling out wheat dough and they accidentally left some overnight and it broke off into flakes and they discovered that some of their patients enjoyed it with cold milk. And Kellogg was convinced that cereals taken in huge quantities would somehow act against the libido and stop the deleterious practice of masturbation, which he thought caused acne, extreme mental and physical debility, heart disease, atrophy of the testes, dimness of vision, epilepsy, insanity, and short-sightedness.
If I have Cocoa Pops, I'll run out and shag a hole in the wall.
They don't put that on the packet, do they? No. That's never been their marketing policy. Cocoa Pops.
No, this might get you excited too, but Kellogg also advocated enemas.
Oh!
Yeah. Visitors to his sanatorium Battle Creek would follow a water enema with a yoghurt enema. A pint of yoghurt, half of which would be taken orally and half anally.
Well, you want to sort out which is which.
Yeah, you will. Good smoothie.
Would it shift bacon right?
Would it shift bacon right?
It was a question.
Isn't it?
It was nothing.
No, it was important.
Let's wait till we holiday in Paris.
Yeah, all right. So there you are. The Kellogg brothers hoped that cornflakes would prevent masturbation. Now, what happens if you eat nothing but rabbit? Yes.
I'd imagine eventually, if you eat enough of it, your feet become lucky.
Very sweet. I like it. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
You die.
Why so?
It's a very nothing meat.
It's full of protein, but there's really very little oil and very little vitamin.
Do your children kill you? Because you come home yet again and go, sorry, Fluffy's passed away. I was giving her a lovely hot bath with some onions and carrots, and she slipped off, I'm afraid.
Do you have really bad nightmares that there's a compulsory purchase order on your street and you get very tense and you start going, they're coming, and people start singing Bright Eyes, and then a bulldozer turns up and kills your nan?
That's not what I've got on the card, amazingly. Nothing about nans. Phil is right. Phil has given the answer.
Has he?
Die.
You die?
The Hudson's Bay Company recorded cases of trappers dying who were feasting plentifully on rabbit. They were eating lots of it. The more they ate, in fact, the sooner they died. Why do you think that was?
Were the rabbits cursed?
No. No, the reason is that you use vitamins and minerals in order to digest. So the more you eat, the more of your own vitamins and minerals you're using up, which you then excrete, and so the faster you die of malnutrition. And there were many cases of these trappers dying, and all they had to have was a tiny bit of vegetables, and they would have survived. But they thought, well, we're eating rabbit, it's full of protein, as it is indeed.
My dad killed my pet rabbit and fed it to me.
Did he?
Yeah.
Perhaps he was trying to kill you, Johnny.
Well, the 39 other rabbits he'd bought in.
Well, I'm very sorry that your little rabbit died.
No, you're not.
Seems to me to explain a great deal. Now, do you remember what disease rabbits got in the 60s and 70s? Do you remember?
Myxomatosis.
Myxomatosis. If you ate a rabbit that was...
Mixy,
as they used to say, what would it do to you?
Go blind?
No, it's actually fine. It would do no harm to a human whatsoever.
Harmless.
Yeah, no, it would do. If you ate enough of them, you would die.
Ah, if you ate nothing but them. As long as you had peas and vegetables with them, you could eat as many as you liked. It's when you have nothing but rabbit that you die. That's the point. All right. Louis XVIII of France had the remarkable ability to tell, just by smelling a rabbit stew, which part of France the rabbit had been hunted and killed in.
Was it more that he would say, this one's from Burgundy, and they go, yes?
Yes.
You have such an incredible ability.
You may be
we didn't
right,
find that in
Alan.
the field out the back at all.
Yeah, I have a horrible feeling you are right. Theoretically, 2 rabbits starting a family could have 33 million offspring in just 3 years.
But they don't get the benefit payouts.
Nah. But do you know why that doesn't happen? 90% of all baby rabbits are eaten by predators.
Who presumably die.
Yes. You haven't really grasped the idea that if you eat nothing but rabbit, you die. Eating rabbit itself will not kill you. You have to eat only rabbit. Is that now clear in
Are
your
you telling
mind?
me that the kestrel gets some peas and carrots?
It gets other animals too.
Oh, and they have the nutrients.
They do.
Shrew.
Yeah,
Lots of
they do.
vitamin C in a shrew. It's like basically a little furry capsule of Sunny D. That's good vitamin E eating.
Well, they eat the whole shrew, so they're getting everything the
Eat
shrew
rabbits.
eats, which is a lot of grass.
Shrews only eat rabbits.
No, they do. Now, you're picking on me and I won't have it. When did rabbits arrive in Britain?
Tuesday.
Do you remember what year it was?
3,000 years ago.
No.
Tuesday morning.
Slam, 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 slam.
There's an elephant in this question. Did one of them rebel against Hannibal? and ride an elephant into this country, and people were so awestruck by the tiny rabbit riding the elephant that they gave him a chain of restaurants to manage, but he quickly realised his life was elsewhere in the country, like most middle-class people leaving college.
My headaches come back.
The short answer to that is no. The long answer is no. It's in fact, rabbits were introduced into this country by the Normans, probably in the 12th century, so not even immediately at the Battle of Hastings, but a bit later.
Hello, these are the Britons, these are the rabbits, these are the Britons. Was it like that? Quite formal?
Not so much the Britons as the Saxons, I suppose. They were introduced.
They were introduced formally, though.
In French.
Did the Britons initially find them standoffish and judgmental?
I say, we better not eat all the rabbits or we die.
You still haven't quite got the point. We can eat all the rabbits we like.
Oh, we better have some peas and carrots.
Thank you. Thank you. Finally, everybody's got the point. But the extraordinary thing about the introduction of rabbits into Britain was that they were kept in these warrens, which were run by people called warreners, and they didn't go wild into the British countryside until the 19th century. For Thursday, the 19th century, exactly. So there were 600 years between the introduction of rabbits into Britain and they becoming essentially a wild animal seen all over our fields, which is rather astonishing. Well, I think we may have exhausted our rabbit subject, and I've enjoyed it very much. But the point is this. If you eat nothing but rabbit, you die. Now to the vegetarian option. Macadamia nuts are not picked from trees, but are collected from the ground, where they've been dropping onto the ground, you see. So now, what kind of dropping would you search for the tasty and nutritious mongongo nut in?
Yes, I don't know, but macadamia sounds like a Scottish university.
Very good. Clever.
Macadamia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where would you find a mongongo nut?
In Africa, I would say.
In Africa,
I'm going Africa.
Are they in monkey poo?
No, they're not in monkey
Are they
poo.
in something's business, though?
They are found in something.
Yes!
Well done. I suspect the points will be shared between you. You're absolutely right.
Elephant dung is full of nuts.
It is, and it takes a week for them to pass through their bodies.
Oh, imagine that.
Oh. Yeah, and it's there it is.
See a Friday.
They look like their arse isn't about to sing.
Yes. Very good. Well, the fact is, yes, they do go through the elephant system, where they remain intact, and they are then gathered.
Who
as you
first
see.
gathered that nut?
I've no idea. I guess they saw it drying in the dung.
So, do we know what they taste like?
The mongongo nuts, yes. They're like a macadamia. They're a bit more like a cashew, apparently. But they're related to the macadamia.
I like cashews.
I would love to serve that at Christmas, just a big pile of elephant poo. And watch the family work
Dig
their way
in.
through it going, don't spoil your dinner. Everyone sat around the table smelling of shit.
It's a lovely Christmas.
Well, he puts out the finest nuts. I hear he gathers them himself.
Indeed. So, the mongongo nut is collected from piles of elephant droppings, which brings us all shuffling downstairs in our pyjamas to the ill-stocked refrigerator that is general ignorance. So, fingers on buzzers, please. What were the first animals to be herded for food? Yes.
Well, the first ones would have been an experiment, so it would have been guinea pigs.
Very good, very good, very good.
Goats.
Not goats. Yes.
Chickens.
Oh, no, not chickens.
Chicken soldier. I've done it again. With the letters.
Yes, Johnny.
T-Rexes.
Oh!
Pterodactyls.
No.
Godzilla.
If I tell you the Latin...
Was it eggs?
Oh, the
eggs! Eggs! They were easy to move around the field.
No.
You could be a very lazy shepherd.
Shall I tell you the Latin name? Would that help? Helix, helix.
Helix, helix.
They've got a spiral on them. So the
Snails.
audience knows.
Snails!
Thank you, audience, for telling Alan.
They herded snails. That must have taken ages.
You think? Absolutely.
All he had to do was build a wall.
Snail farming seems to date back to 10,700 BC. The earliest things archaeologists have ever found that we appeared to farm.
Sorry, hang on. An archaeologist discovered that. So he's
Yes.
on a dig site and he found a snail and he went, oh, look, they must
No,
have...
that's not quite really.
I found a tiny snail farm. Send more money, mother.
So in all seriousness, they dug up a bunch of snails and went, they must have been
I
farmed.
have proof.
No, they obviously wouldn't just say that, would they? Say, oh, we found some snail shells, therefore it's a farm. Obviously, one assumes
They found a
that as
tiny plastic
archaeologists-
fence and some tiny plastic animals.
Exactly, and
And,
some
sheepdog
sheepdog bones near it.
Yeah, and a die-cast man with a whistle gun.
Exactly right. Tell me about snails' sex lives.
They do it by themselves, don't they?
They're all hermaphrodites.
Did they find some spinach, that someone has grown for the first time ever successfully and then just hang around there, leaving the mess? Like dirty snail teenagers.
Possibly. They do dance and kiss for up to 20 hours before sex.
I know they do, but, why do it on the plant?
Yeah. Good.
It's my first harvest.
Do you know, they have an optional...
You
they have
walk out on a grow bag and you think life's going to be different, don't you?
Snails have an optional sexual organ. Do you know what it's called? Which they can use for sex, but they don't always because it's quite dangerous.
A second half.
The vaginas.
Second arse. It's called a love dart, actually.
The love dart?
Yes.
Well, that's a happy coincidence.
Yeah. It's actually more like a 7 to 11 millimetre dagger.
Well, exactly. This is uncanny.
It releases chemicals to stimulate the stabbed mate, so they stab their mate with the love dart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It can result in injury if carried out inaccurately.
Of course.
But use of the dart doubles... Exactly.
Should have done it in
Sounds like an
daylight.
episode of Midsummer Murders.
It does, doesn't it? It does double the chance of offspring, though, using the love dart. So it's kind of a bit like playing an elephant, you know. It's just, it increases your options. You can do it, but it's a risk.
Why don't they like salt?
I don't know. Chili cloud does something to their slimy bits, doesn't it? You salt a snail or a slug, and yeah.
Why has it never been on Dragon's Den? Because there must be a chemical compound that you can put on a tape. Because you obviously don't want to put salt in the ground when you're growing anything.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that you can apply that's not damaging to the soil that would give the same chemical reaction to a slug or a snail.
I'm in.
And third, you trap me into
I'm going to need
your
control.
first spinach.
Yeah. I will give you £1 for 100% of the equity. That's of that brilliant idea.
It's salt on sellotape.
Yes.
I'll take that pound.
And live the dream.
Let's never look back.
Oh dear.
It might blow away. We should have used double-sided.
Yes, snails seem to have been the first animals to be herded for food, which is enough to make one feel quite ill. So what causes stomach ulcers?
Spam, 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 spam.
God, I went for this test. It's not the lining of the walls, it's an overactive certain bacteria.
You're absolutely right. It is a
shit.
bacteria. It is.
Yeah.
It's called Helicobacter pylori.
And it's like a volcano, like a fire, and if you take
No, that's the Gaviscon.
it flushes down and lots of little men with brushes come into your tummy and clean up.
Yeah, it was for a long time thought and completely believed that ulcers were caused by a mixture of bad diet and stress, that catch-all word. But two Australian doctors did remarkable research. I mean, they were laughed at for suggesting that it was this bacterium, and then one of them actually drank a dish of this bacterium.
Well, he downed it for a bet. That definitely sounds like Aussie doctors. That sounds like every Australian doctor I've ever met. Will you drink this? Oh, you, mate.
It was a good bet because it was $750,000. He got the Nobel Prize.
He got the Nobel Prize?
He shared the Nobel Prize.
For downing a drink?
For proving the origins of what was the biggest single killer of young men in the world.
And I
So rather important. Because you could now clear up a peptic ulcer with a short course of antibiotics rather than die of it, which is a good thing. And if anything is worthy of a Nobel Prize, I would say that would be.
I refuse the treatment because I prefer to think that I've got sea monkeys living in my stomach.
Ah, yes. Did you get a Nobel Prize for that thought?
No, I'm not going to get anything for eating all that glass in a rugby pub.
It's so unfair life, isn't it? Anyway, yes, Marshall, his name was Barry Marshall. And he risked his own life, of course, but Article 5 of the Nuremberg Code, set up after the Nuremberg trials, says that it is illegal to use human subjects for medical experiments when there is a risk of death. The only exception to this rule being...
Spam, 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 spam.
Putting a fly's head on yours.
No.
It makes your wife very nervous. And she's got to go out in the garden and find the little bit.
Absolutely.
It's if you do it on yourself.
If you do it on yourself, you are allowed to do it on yourself. And there's been some
So,
famous
sorry,
ones.
when the guy downed this thing and he went, this is definitely going to cause a massive ulcer, he got a massive ulcer, and did they find the cure immediately? Or did his mate go, I'll work on that?
No.
I will be right with you.
They knew that a bacterium could be cured by antibiotics.
Or you send off for some female sea monkeys and they just calm down.
Werner Forssmann was another one who experimented on himself. He was the first person to insert a catheter into somebody's heart, his own heart. He inserted the tube through his arm into his heart, walked into the X-ray department, took a picture to prove what he'd done. It lost him his job, but he won the 1956 Nobel Prize for Medicine. There's a theme emerging.
Oh, did he take that back to his employer?
£750,000, that
Who
prize
sacks a
is.
man for that? Oh, not you again.
He was working
You're the one with the yogurt in his ass.
Enough already. Bacteria are the cause of stomach ulcers, as Nobel Prize winner Barry Marshall proved by deliberately infecting himself with them. Now, which green vegetable has 10 times more iron than average?
Oh, I don't know, but you have to eat it if you're having rabbit.
Very true.
Do you know that?
Very true. Goes well with rabbit. Any other thoughts?
Spinach!
Oh, hard luck.
Broccoli.
Oh dear.
Seaweed.
Oh, that's more intelligent, but still not true. I call it a vegetable because it is, strictly speaking, a vegetable rather than an animal or mineral, but it's better known as a culinary
Parsley.
addition.
Chili.
Like parsley. What's parsley? That's called a herb, isn't it?
Coriander.
Horseradish.
I can't give you any
Bush
more.
basil. Mint. Bush basil.
Can't give you any more time.
Is it time?
Time, thank you. Why does your body need
It
iron?
would go all floppy and wobbly.
What does it do, iron in
The blood. The red blood cells helps them transmit oxygen.
You're right, it transports from the lungs around the body. Quite right, very good. If you ate 3.5 ounces of ground thyme, you'd consume over 600% of your recommended daily allowance.
Does that mean you could then eat rabbit for 6 days?
Probably would, yes.
Oh, that's
I would
worth
let you
thinking about
do
then,
that.
isn't
Yeah, I'd let you do that. And so, unless anyone would like a coffee or liqueur, it is time to split the tab. And what do we find? Well, in first place, getting Michelin stars, would you believe? It's Alan Davies with -2. Well, our sous chef with -3 points is Johnny Vegas. Barely scraping a GCSE in home economics with -6 points is Jimmy Carr. And finally, left washing the pots with -21, Phil Jupiters. Well, that's it from Jimmy, Johnny, Phil, Alan and me, and from Dick Cavett, who tells us, I eat at this German-Chinese restaurant, and the food is delicious. The only problem is that half an hour later, you're hungry for power. Good night. God rest ye merry, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to QI. Dust off the snow, take off your hats, scarves and trousers, and join me as we gather round the flickering flames of fact and fallacy to examine the subjects of fire and freezing. And helping me to stoke the embers and rummage excitedly in my stockings tonight, we have 4 festive fellows. It's a baptism of fire for Dom Jolly. And crackling and sparking on all cylinders, Clive Anderson. Come home to a real fire. Buy a cottage in Wales in the company of Rob Brydon. And hiding under the bedclothes, playing with matches, Alan Davies. Let it snow, and let us know what you know. But before the party games begin, gentlemen, I have to ask you to jingle your bells. Dom goes...
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Nice. Clive goes... Rob goes...
I am the god of hellfire.
There's a fiery theme, isn't there? And Alan goes...
Alan, you're a bloody disgrace. You're fired.
You're fired? Oh, no. So... Now, here's one way to use fire. Indian smoke signals. Can you tell me what they're saying here?
They did actually. It's not going to turn out to be some myth that they never did smoke signals.
No, indeed, you might have expected
it.
it, but in fact, it's quite genuine. It's considered probably the first language of North America was smoke signals.
What
and hand
makes that
signals
different? I don't see the subtleties of it from just a bit of smoke.
All you need to have is a bit of smoke and then not smoke. Do you see what I mean? If you left it alone, you'd get a column of smoke. But what they do is do puffs of smoke by having animal skins, not blankets, oddly enough. I know one used to think it was blankets, I think. Yeah. But animal skins that you take away. And they can create immensely complicated, even V-shapes and things like that, using the blankets.
Is this the same thing they do at the Vatican with the Pope?
Or is it just not? Is that a more simple language?
Very simple, that isn't it?
It's just white smoke.
It's either white or black.
Right. Yes.
They used to add wet straw to make it black if they couldn't find a.
Black is
pope.
what for an African pope?
It's for not being able to. They have to tell the populace assembled in St. Peter's Square whether or not they've come to a
But
decision.
since they banned smoking in the Vatican, quite a lot of people hang out the window for a fag, and it causes all sorts of trouble.
Can you imagine Catholic priests hanging out for a fag? It seems so unlikely. If we run the film on, in fact, it's 2 puffs that they give here.
That's how.
And 2 puffs means all's well, apparently.
Yes.
It means everything's okay.
Looks more like a question mark there, doesn't it?
Oh, it does actually. Right.
Do they do grammar or?
They should have got one of those light aircraft that can write in the sky. Just simple purchase.
What? Free drink?
A word like that. You see, they're ahead of you.
They got good, didn't they?
They did.
See, with the one before, I don't know if we can go back to it, but the one before, yes, we can. With that one there, which you say means all's well. But of course, I mean, that could so easily be the aftermath of this Indian's home going up in flames. And they'd look over the hill and they go, do you think that's our place? No, it says all's well. It's fine. They just carry on their way.
You're right, it is confusing.
But we used to do this with these signal bonfires, didn't we? They went across the country.
Absolutely
But again, the same beacons. It's the same problem there. It might be, oh, look, there's an invasion, or it could just be the Great Fire of London's happening and bring water.
Oh, yeah, if you accidentally set that to your beacon, that would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Was that before or after email?
It's close.
Yeah.
They were spamming, though. You'd get endless streams. Like, do you want a bigger cock?
What about
Is that how you get a bigger cock? Slapping it around like that? I think with me it would have the opposite effect, to be honest. I think back into my shell.
I think you find it works for a while.
Oh, heavens, yes. Well, anyway, Indian smoke signals varied from time to time and place to place. But 1 puff generally meant just hello. Now we can all take our hats off, as I ask another question. So, we've provided you with a more sophisticated signalling device, which you've got in front of you, in fact, and we've given you a little booklet about each. Dom, why don't you try flirting with Rob based on this? Because what they've got in front of them, ladies and gentlemen, is they have a little booklet. They have a little booklet describing the language of fans. What are you saying, Dom?
I'll tell you what he's saying. He is saying, I'm having a fit, the tablets are in my top pocket. No, he's saying, okay. Oh, my God.
I love another.
Yes, I love another.
Oh, my.
Not very
And
nice.
he's looking at Alan.
No.
Right, OK.
Not that chap next to you.
As you see, it's a very complex...
Do not betray our secret.
I've got one for you.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. Slow closing. Shut. Oh, I promised to marry you. Thank you. But do you know anything about the language of fans? Where it came from? What time there was such a thing as a language of fans?
I'm guessing it was from Belgium.
From Belgium?
Yeah.
Well, you're not far off, actually.
I'd say it's from Yorkshire.
You are a little fella. Can you imagine that?
And what if you're just a bit hot and you go flying and you suddenly realise you're saying, hello, I love you, come over here.
Exactly. Do you swallow? Sorry. What's the matter with these today?
What's got into you tonight,
Christmas.
Stephen?
It's Christmas.
Yes.
I've got the Christmas spirit is in me. I'm very sorry. And
who's that come from?
Usually you're the ones who dragged it, and I just thought if it nosedives into the carnal, it's going to be my fault tonight. No, actually, the thing about the language of fans is that fans, you're quite right, did come over from China to Europe via Italy, as so much did after Marco Polo. But in fact, it was quite a late 19th century invention. There was a French fan house, a maker of fans called Du Valois. And they produced a little booklet with this language of fans in order to try and make it sort of a...
French fan house? Is that a euphemism for something?
Maison de l'Éventail. I don't know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
It took over from the language of the baguette, which was in use before.
Rather more basic language, exactly. Yeah, so there we are, fans. Obviously, every lady had a fan in those days, in the 18th and 19th centuries. But in order, I think, to help the sales of their fans, they invented this language, basically, the language of the
the fan. Now, what happened to the fireman's pole?
He tiled the fireman's bathroom.
Very good. Very good.
I mean, how much time does it save to go down a pole? I mean, they've got to drive half the mile across the town anyway to get there. So
That's
half
true.
a second off the... Just walk down the stairs.
Why don't they have a slide, like in the park?
Oh, that would be fun.
They could have a swirly slide or even a water slide.
It'd be a good way of getting young firemen in, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Getting them trained. It was probably a health and safety thing, I would imagine.
Oh, God.
Is it really?
No, you see...
Safety gone mad. That's the new political correctness gone mad.
Yeah, there was a series of stories in the newspapers that, like, essentially just to make things up in order to get us all angry in the morning. They claimed that, you know, firemen's poles were being taken out because health and safety... And it's just...
It's the whole reason.
I mean, most new fire stations are built on one floor, so they don't arise.
Yeah.
But in all ones where they exist, they're there. And if they build one with 2 floors, they get their poles.
But surely that's the main reason you become a fireman, isn't it?
Yeah.
You go down the pole. It's not like I want to be a fireman so that I might die in a fire. It's I want to go down the pole and maybe one night I'll bring a special friend back and share with the pole and...
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You demand an extra floor on the fire station. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. So.
Do you know where the longest pole is in Europe, fireman's pole? And how long would you think it might be? What's the maximum length?
48 feet, I would guess.
64
no,
feet.
No, 40 foot, actually. There's a 40-footer in Birmingham, and it's the biggest in Europe.
That's the limit, is it?
There may be a bigger one in America, I believe.
That's really quite high.
It is quite high, 40 foot, yeah.
When you're really going to take the skin off your hands by the time you get off.
So you picture that squeaky noise, and it makes your teeth go on edge, doesn't
They
it?
talc up like the weightlifters.
They should do, shouldn't they?
Do they teach a technique of coming down the pole? Is it just hands? Because they
they're
all seem to be
gripping
doing...
I think the thighs
They
have
do a
to
knee
exert
grip.
pressure.
I must say, there are a hell of a lot of firefighters.
The driver of the fire engine is there going, no, I can't go yet, I've got to wait till they're all here. Meanwhile, the whole family is burning to death.
Well, apparently it's because they sometimes literally are still pulling on their trousers, and then running downstairs doing that, of course, is much more dangerous than doing down a pole where you can just sort of hold them up and go down the pole and put them on. You really are, and obviously every second can save a
I
life.
don't understand why the firemen are always completely caught out by the fact that...
Yeah, so what? A fire?
Oh my God! Quick! All undressed.
Were the poles always made of shiny metal, or were there early versions that splintered and...
nasty.
Well, they must have experimented with
A flammable pole, that'd be
materials.
absurd. They'd all be stuck up there with the pole on fire, no one to put it out.
It was insurance companies invented firemen.
You're absolutely right. I think you should get some points to that, Clive, because you're completely correct. Things like the Sun was one of the biggest, now the Royal Sun Alliance. That started as a fire insurance company. And what would happen was you'd pay the insurance to the company, and they would send you a brass plaque, which you would set into the wall of your house. So if there was a fire, what tended to happen was lots of different brigades came from different insurance companies, and they read the plaque. And if you hadn't paid, they wouldn't put your fire out, unless you happened to be next to someone else who had. Because, you know, if you got a fire, the chances are the fire would spread to them.
I think that's one of the worst things I can imagine is your house is on fire and they turn up and won't put it out.
I know. Can you imagine that?
That would make me annoyed.
Would they stay and kind of roast marshmallows, or would they just drive straight off?
They'd stand there with the hose going,
Or sort of saying...
They just stand there with water pouring out the other
Sort of
way.
saying, since we're here, if you paid for the next time, we might as well collect now.
Think again with your premium.
It's not the fire that kills people. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Fire doesn't kill people?
No. Well, it does, Clive, of course. You're not going to tie me up in legalese here. I'm not going to get all heated up, which is what you want to happen. I'm not going to stay very calm.
Yes. It didn't say fire doesn't kill people. It said it's not the fire that kills people.
Your lordship is absolutely right. I was just exploring a bit of this. The notion that fire was in some way not deadly.
It's not the fire that kills the people.
Generally.
It's a byproduct of the fire. And I wonder if any of you know what that byproduct
Is it flame?
Is it the slinky?
Yeah.
It's not the slinky, Stephen, but it's a good try. Clive, you were right. Smoke. It's the smoke. And what happens is... Smoke doesn't burn you, so I know what you're thinking. Well, how on earth could... No. What smoke does, and this is where it gets interesting, it chokes you. And if we choke, what can't we do?
Breathe.
We can't breathe. And if we can't breathe, what do, Dom?
We die.
We die. Yes.
There's a thing called a flashpoint in which... No, I don't know where I learnt this. Well, it might have been in a film, or it might have been from a really terrifying fire safety talk that we were given at primary school. which was the one thing I really remember about that is when you strike a match, strike it away from you, because otherwise the head will come off and set light to you, particularly if you're a granny. Whoa! And this guy told us a story about someone's grandma who'd burned to death.
Because urine is flammable if it stays on clothing. No, this is true. This is true. There's something in urine, if it stays on your clothes long enough, becomes flammable. So grandmothers who are not well maintained, it's true.
Particularly vulnerable to
an arsonist who's looking for.
That's a measure of how mean people are. They won't even pee on you if you're.
That's an Australian
fire.
phrase, isn't it?
Yes.
I wouldn't piss up his arse if his kidneys were on fire.
Exactly.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for all that information about fire and smoke and goodness knows what else. Now, what's the worst thing you can do if you're a fire eater?
Well, there are vegetarian restaurants, aren't there, where you can't get meat.
Yeah.
So if you're a fire eater...
restaurants, I think.
Yes.
Qualified.
Nothing wrong with that sentence so far.
There are vegetarian restaurants where you can't get meat. To quote the great John Cleese, thank you for what's your specialist subject, the bleeding obvious.
You've heard about these, apparently these vegetarian restaurants.
I was establishing what I thought was an uncontroversial point, that in vegetarian restaurants you can't eat meat because they don't serve it.
No, they don't. I believe that's right.
So, there may be restaurants that don't serve fire. So, if you're a fire eater, there'd be no point in going to these restaurants and ordering fire. This is a simple point I was trying to make, but I was interrupted rather on the way.
I'll have a nice plate of fire, please.
Yes.
And that wouldn't
I would have
work.
thought at a Christmas event, if a fire eater was thinking, I haven't shown my family this skill, and there was a urine-soaked granny who'd been brought out of the home just for a day for Christmas, that would probably not be the time to say, so what are you up to now? Bruno.
Well, basically, I mean, I don't know if you know much about fire eating. There isn't really much to know. What you see is what they do. It really is as bad as it looks. I mean, they mostly have mouths filled with blisters and ulcers. It's a very unpleasant thing to do.
Do you eat
and
the
they,
fire?
they hurt themselves. Basically, what you shouldn't do is breathe in. They have this condition, it's fire eater's lung, which is obviously, as you can imagine, an absolutely horrific condition. And
It's like
plus
farmer's lung, and there's no subsidy.
Exactly.
Because basically it's fire spitting. Rather than fire
Yeah,
eating.
and that's, no matter how careful they are, they ingest the lighter fluid, which is toxic.
Or if you had plastic false teeth or wooden false teeth, which I think we've discussed in this program,
Yes,
that would be a disaster because they would catch fire.
They would catch fire. That would be awful. Yeah, and the
smoking.
smoke would then
Smoke.
Yeah.
Which would
Smoke.
would kill you.
It wouldn't be the fire, you see.
Well, anyway, perhaps the most important piece of advice for the fire eater is do not inhale. Now, it's time to retire from the fire and brave the cold. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a mile-long aircraft carrier made from ice and sawdust?
Radar. I put it to you that... Move on.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I was wondering if they're undetectable by radar.
It's a nice thought. I don't think that's true. At the size they were planned, and this was a genuine plan in Britain by a man called Pike, after whom the substance is named. It's a mix, I know. Yeah. Don't tell him your name, Pike. I know. It's his name is Pike with a Y. And the substance is known as pykrete. It's stronger than steel. I'm not kidding you. It's just
Till
ice.
the temperature goes up.
Well, no, but that's the other thing, is it doesn't melt. They tested it for a whole summer in a lake and it didn't melt. Mountbatten was obsessed by the idea and he took a lump of it in to see Churchill, and the story goes Churchill was in his bath. Churchill often took meetings while in his bath, and he threw it into his bath and said, "There, Winston." And Churchill watched in his hot bath, and it didn't melt, this piece of ice. It did not melt. It stayed
But because it
frozen.
landed on his nuts,
Well,
he said, I'm not going ahead with that.
Well, the idea was to build aircraft carriers, literally with guns on them. That was the plan. I mean, it seems absolutely barking, I agree. But it was only the Normandy landings that stopped us building such things.
The picture, of course, looks like the cover of a magazine where they might say, if you like ice and you like aircraft carriers, you love Iced Aircraft Carrier Monthly. It builds up into a wonderful collection.
Can I say, I do like ice and I like aircraft carriers, and I do get that magazine, and that's not an aircraft carrier, that's a destroyer.
You're right, that is a destroyer.
Yes, of course.
Very good.
Yes.
Absolutely right, actually. That's no kind of aircraft carrier,
There's
is
no
it?
magazine for those people.
And I'll tell you something else. It's not the aircraft carrier that will kill you. It's the destroyer.
Yeah. Anyway, the 300-foot wide, 2,000-foot long mid-Atlantic runways would have contained giant refrigerators to keep the ice ship cool. Holes in a pykrete ship could be repaired by using seawater. And the icy aircraft carriers were also designed to be able to immobilize enemy warships by spraying them with supercooled water.
Yes. Was it the idea of Professor Pat Pending from the Wacky Races?
Anyway, during World War II, plans really were drawn up for a huge aircraft carrier made from pykrete. Now, as we're in the Christmas spirit, let's have a little sing-song. What's everybody's favourite bit in that traditional song, The 12 Days of Christmas? Which is your favourite bit?
Lord's Leaping.
For me, it's the gold ring.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
5 gold rings.
Wouldn't that be wrong if you're asked what his favourite...
He's leading the witness.
Oh, I asked what his... I asked what his favourite bit was in the traditional English song, and it's not traditional, it's a recent addition. There's a man called Austin who wrote that arrangement in which it went 5 gold rings, and that bit alone is copyright and belongs to Novello, and you pay for.
All right, so we've just blown the BBC's budget.
The whole BBC. It's a bit like Happy Birthday to You. You can't sing or whatever in films, or at least if you do, you have to pay enormous royalties because the lyrics are still not in public domain.
I was told at school that it was code. It was supposed to be an aide-memoire to something.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Well, there are these games you can play that are like, in my trunk I'm going to pack, and the first person says a pair of swimming trunks, and the second one has a pair of swimming trunks and a book. So it's that thing, it's a memory thing. There's a version I play called Christopher Biggins Has Up His Bottom Tonight, and you have to remember the person. You go, Christopher Biggins has up his bottom tonight, and you go, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the next person says, Christopher Biggins has up his bottom tonight, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it has to begin with the last letter of Schwarzenegger, and...
Rodney Bewes.
Rodney Bewes, exactly. Christopher Biggins has up his bottom tonight, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rodney Bewes, and then the next person goes, Christopher Biggins has his bottom tonight.
Steve Davis, the snooker player.
Brilliant!
Oh,
and you go on until you can't remember, and you get a huge
Simon
list.
Sharma.
You usually find that Christopher...
Anthony Andrews.
Christopher is astoundingly accommodating. That's the great thing about the game. And it goes on. It's a fun party game. I can't recommend it.
Is this why he was made King of the Jungle? For this particular skill?
Well, the fact is, the song 12 Days of Christmas is a traditional, non-copyright song, with the exception of 5 gold rings, which was added by Frederick Austin and is owned by Novello and Company Limited. And with that, we lash out of the frying pan of knowledge only to descend into the fearsome inferno of the fire and brimstone that we call general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What happens when you blow out the candles on your birthday cake?
You're fired.
First time
You make a wish.
Well, yeah.
Ha! Gotcha.
You edge a little closer to the grave, because wasn't it Richard Burton who said that when a baby cries, its first cry as it is born, it's crying out knowing... Shut up. You wouldn't know a good impression if it sat in your face. So the baby, when he cries upon birth, is crying full in knowledge. I can't remember the rest of it, but something about...
Anyway, yes, no, obviously people make wishes and things like that, but why does the flame extinguish when you blow it out?
You blow the flame off the wick and it's then disconnected and harmless in the air. And it goes out.
It's like an Indian smoke signal.
Yeah, there are three things that keep it alight. Right, one, oxygen
heat,
is one.
Oxygen, heat.
Heat is the other.
Wink.
And the fuel that needs to go. So you simply remove it from the heat. But if you had a wick made of something that burnt at a very low temperature, then no matter how much you blew it out, it wouldn't go out, which explains those silly trick candles.
But how come if you use bellows on a fire, that's to encourage the flame, isn't it?
Blowing into a fire is lovely because you get it, up it comes. I wonder what Richard Burton would make of it. Oh, look at the fire, growing taller and... All right, never mind.
You come from the same... You from...
I'm from the same town as Richard Burton and Anthony Hopkins.
And Michael Sheen.
And Michael Sheen, of course.
Actor.
Brilliant. In fact, my father grew up in the same street, literally the same street as Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. In England, we live in houses. Sorry. Anyway, fire needs three things to work: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Oh dear. Has the fire gone out between us, darling? Has it? Oh no. Oh! Oh, you want to?
What does this mean?
Involves Christopher Biggins, though, doesn't it?
Fire needs three things to work. It needs heat, fuel, and oxygen. When you blow out a candle, it's a sudden drop in temperature, and that's what causes the flame to go out. From heat back to cold. You know how sometimes it can be too cold to snow? Yeah?
Is that a question?
Yeah. You know how it can be too cold to snow?
Yes, because you need some moisture.
Thank you. Thank you.
You really hate me, don't
No,
you?
not you. No, the fact is it can't be too cold. It's a thing people say it's too
really
cold.
horrible of you. You led me into it. Hang on, he tried to get us first.
Yes,
He didn't move.
I've been on this programme a few times, and I know whatever you say at this point, it's always, that's going to happen. Anything you think you know...
Normally you're told to talk on these programmes. With this, you just have to sit.
You said it. You said it too slow. And my little head, I went, God, I wouldn't have thought so. But yes, and I went, well, I'm going to join in then, yes.
Anyway, now the fact is, snow's been recorded at -41, -50 degrees. There's only one temperature which is too cold to snow, but then it's too cold to do anything. Nothing moves.
Absolute zero.
Absolute zero.
My favourite temperature, before we get that low, is -40. Because in centigrade and Fahrenheit, they're the same.
meet.
They're both -40.
What a thrill.
So isn't that exciting?
What I do want to do is I want to give a couple of points to Rob, because he is right that it's less likely to snow when there is less moisture, and there is less moisture when it is very cold. So, but it's not ever too cold to snow.
Talk to the face, because the hand ain't listening.
Oh dear. Anyway, nowhere on Earth can ever be too cold for snow. For instance, regularly snows at the poles where it's colder than anywhere else on Earth. So now we come to the great moment of truth, when our panellists are rewarded for having been good or possibly not having been good this QI Christmas. And what do we see before us? Well, Santa's favourite little helper this year, on 8 points, is Clive Anderson.
I think it's a team game.
And in second place, deserving of so much support, because he's just really improving every year, on -6, Alan Davies. And third, despite falling into a few honey traps, on -8, Rob Brydon. Well, I'm sorry to say that the cold Brussels sprout on this occasion, with -16, because he's trusting and confiding and a jolly good fellow, Dom on -16. So, all that remains is for me to thank Clive, Rob, Dom and Alan, and relate you a Christmas scene in a galaxy far, far away, where Darth Vader says to Luke, Luke, I know what you're getting for Christmas. Whatever noise he makes. He says, no, you can't possibly know. I know what you're getting for Christmas. You can't know, it's not true. I know what you're getting for Christmas. How can you know? I have felt your presence. Thank you.